Good evening. The public hearing of the fiscal year 26 budget, adoption of the fiscal year 26 budget, and the business session of the Methuen School Committee posted for Wednesday, May 21st, 2025 will now come to order. Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Present.
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 Here.
Here. We need a motion and a second to accept the amended agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion from Member Shabilia, second from the Vice Chair. Discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We'll now rise for the flag salute. Superintendent, I will, actually, you know what? We have the presentation from the superintendent, and then we'll do, wait a second, public participation.
Correct.
Yeah, let's do public participation first.
No, it's kind of purposeful.
After the budget presentation, okay. All right, Superintendent?
Thank you. So I just wanted an opportunity tonight because we have not had, typically in the past, we were able to have a proposed budget showing and then we have the hearing. But with all of our budget workshops, we haven't actually put it all together so that we can kind of see what it looks like. School committee members, you have all of the detail pages with you from the proposed school committee budget that was agreed upon to move forward from May 12th. So I just want to make a few notes for everybody here so that we can see those who might be watching as well. Some of these slides we have seen in the past. Some of the numbers have been adjusted. This is probably the most real-time budget I have ever presented, at least in my 7 years, meaning like we have been working on this until about 5 o'clock this evening to at least present to you what we feel are the most accurate representations of the numbers tonight. But just to make some notes, right, some major increases, notable increases from this budget and where they're coming from and why. We have some significant increases in contracted services, primarily from the following, and those bullets are outlined there. Out-of-district tuition increases, required contracted services like evaluations, assistive technology, specialized related services, home services, utilities, and increase for all other contracted services such as technology and maintenance. So that's a large line item. Our contractual increases for non-net school spending, which is transportation, that is also an increase from last year to this year. I'm going to say 99% due to the fact that we have entered into a new contract after going out to bid for transportation. We always have an increase in annual contractual obligations through our collective bargaining agreements and other individual contracts. The one thing that really still should be noted, and this number is actually going up right now, that our October 1st enrollment for 2024, which is what our foundation budget is based on, is actually it's more than 100 plus students more today than it was on October 1st. So money that we don't get from our October 1st enrollment, we won't see, right? So we won't see that money at $18,000 per head. Whatever we are over this year, we just kind of have to be over, right? And that happens every year. There's no way to go back to the state and say, but we have an enrollment that's 150 more than it was on October 1st. There's no second chance to submit your enrollment. It happens the same way. It is a regulation in Massachusetts that it happens that way, but it's worth noting because our enrollment continues to increase at this point. And then the other piece that I have made clear, but I want to make really clear tonight, because I did have some questions asked about this even as close as last week. that in the past, we've had additional circuit breaker, which is special education funds that we are able to carry forward, right? That's the only account that the school district has authority over that is for contractual services, primarily for special education, out-of-district transportation and tuitions, that we can actually use from one year to the next. This year, we don't have the amount of carry forward that we have had in the past. So a lot of people, are wondering why our contracted services are so high this year. They're actually not significantly higher than they have been in the past year over date. They appear higher in the budget because I don't have the carry forward from circuit breaker to offset that increase. Does that make sense to everybody? So that, I've said it a few times, but it's worth saying again, sort of the why behind what is happening right now. And again, all of these bullets, if you looked up any school district in Massachusetts right now, I've listed some that are going through very significant challenges like ourselves. These are the primary reasons that all of districts in Massachusetts are really looking at some challenging times ahead. I could add to that the unknown with the federal allocations. We won't have those until July. And so there's that a little bit of an unknown on dollar amounts as well that we are, we have to balance. Of course you can.
With the federal allocations, if we're not going to know those until July
July.
for certain,
Correct.
given the, let's call it instability of the federal government, what happens if those come back short?
So we are expecting them to come back short, and we have appropriated appropriately for that.
What if they don't come at all?
We have been told they're coming, and so it would be devastating to a lot of school districts across the country if those don't come at all, because we have been assured that the FY26 monies in the title grants and the IDEA are coming. It's FY27 that is absolutely unsure, because the federal government timeline is different, right? Their budget is from like October to October. So the FY26 federal monies have been allocated to states. Again, the amount is probably going to be decreased by 10 or 20%. We are still waiting to confirm whether or not Title 3, 2, and 4, I should have done that in order, 2, 3, and 4 are going to be part of the title package. But we have accounted, what you're looking at tonight, we have accounted for most of that. Okay? So what we are looking at tonight, so the red arrow, the Methuen Public Schools proposed budget per the school committee as of May 12th is in the column with the red arrow under it. This is the budget book that we gave you guys last week. The number, however, has changed. Going in the right direction, in our opinion. And again, because we're just looking at every possible thing we can. It was at 103 million. That middle number that says school budget, net school spending operating is now 102,639,745. None of that has come from staff. We have taken every line again and gone through every single line to see where we could reduce dues and fees, services, where we could use any other revolving accounts. I mean, we just went through every line one more time. We did take additional funds from extraordinary maintenance, so that is out there. So it's funds that we are not obligated to, but we're gonna have to do without. So we did that exercise again the last 2 days, deep. So the Methuen Public Schools proposed budget per the school committee for non-net school spending. There is a little bit of a change here as well per the mayor this afternoon. So our proposed number for non-net school spending, which is transportation, is $11,061,304. The proposed city budget was actually about 1.6 below that. The mayor, there's an asterisk there that explains that. The mayor is willing to go and ask the city for consideration for free cash to make sure that we get our non-net school spending. So we are happy to put that in there, but also want to put an asterisk in there that that is an ask that we will have to go to city council again, just like we did on Monday evening. Questions?
What happens, and I just had the same conversation with the mayor before they started us up, but just for conversation's sake, what happens if that bridge gap of 1.6, you said?
Yep.
Doesn't get through city council,
It has to come from net school spending.
which means we'll be looking at additional layoffs at some point during the year.
Correct.
So it's
I might be able
Russian
to explain
roulette
that.
okay.
Yes, I might be able to explain that as we keep going. But yes, that was part of our activity today before the mayor did contact us, that we were going to go and figure out how we were going to reduce by that 1.6, which was non-net, to look at a picture of what that budget would look like with the numbers the city administration gave us, which we have. And I put the chart there on the right. I think it's important that people see what a bus costs. We talk about it all the time, but sometimes we don't actually display that. It was part of the bus bid that we approved in February. But these are contractual costs, and as you can see, they've gone up. All of them have gone up. Some quite more than others in the cost per bus or van, in district, out of district. They're all different prices for all different reasons, which again was part of our bus bid that we went through in February. Other questions?
I think it's worth noting on the buses, since I was on that subcommittee that did the RFP, these are increasing, but they by far were the cheapest option. The only other option we had was $4 million more, because it would have been first, and you're just pointing at me now, it would have been $4 million more.
Hard to hear, everybody. Thank you, Member
And
Maxwell.
they were a union shop, so that's the increase on pricing. So while NRT is not always well liked for some of the service issues they've had over the last few years, the new contract does have delivery standards in it, and they have been benchmarked, and there's no other bus companies out there that can do what we need them to do, because they bought them all up. So I just wanted to frame that so people have something to rationalize those increases.
The other thing I want to note is that new information to me today was that if we were to cut, say, high school busing to try to reduce that cost, it wouldn't actually reduce the cost, because it's the price is per day, not per run. So cutting one run from the busing doesn't actually help our situation.
That is important information for folks, right? Because we have 34 buses, and we pay for those buses 1 tier, 2 tier, 3 tier. So if we get rid of 1 tier, we're still paying for the 34 buses for elementary and upper school runs. It doesn't change the cost. You're absolutely right. It's the distance. It's the how many bus runs we actually do that would change the cost of the buses, which we started to go down, and it gets challenging as safety becomes that issue. Okay. So this is, these are the categories. This is the total for net school spending, non-net school spending, per the proposed budget from the school committee. Again, just a chart with numbers. This proposed budget, per the school committee, includes reductions due to change in enrollment and budget reductions as we presented on 5/12. So there's still, that this budget that is being presented is still going to have some layoffs, not the dozens that we had previously, but this would still affect staffing. All staff affected by the reduction in force will fill current vacant positions and/or new positions needed. And we, our goal when this is all said and done, we would have to work really closely with the union to determine, positions, making sure we're following the language in each of the collective bargaining agreements to do that appropriately. There are some new positions in the budget, which we've talked about also, that are required for student support services, health needs, and some maintenance. And I really mean that when I say real-time adjustments as of 5/21, I probably should have put a time on that, which would have been like 5/10, when we printed this, for everybody. So the proposed budget that we talked about from 5/12, this one is a little confusing, so I just want to take a moment and make sure I explain it enough for folks to understand. But the chart on the left are the reductions due to the budget. So we have, part of the budget process that all of the principals and directors go through every year is looking at their budget, reducing because of enrollment, adding because of enrollment. We reduce for service delivery if students don't need one-to-ones, if we have new students coming in. That's the exercise we do between February and March every single year. So there are going to be reductions regardless of the budget situation, the financial situation, because of that exercise, right? We're not going to have class sizes of 12 in a second grade in one school and class sizes of 22 in the other. We've always tried to balance that work going into the budget season. So the chart that you see on the left indicates the positions that are not because of those enrollment changes or services. Those positions would be reduced with the 102 million net school spending budget number because of the budget, right? Because of the amount of money we are putting on the table. The chart on the right is a total. We presented this chart on May 12th. It would be a total in each of those categories, what the layoff would be, combining budget reductions and the enrollment and service delivery. And why those numbers aren't adding up and why they are different is because it is one of the most complicated scenarios, but this is what the HR director, Colleen McCarthy, myself, Mr. Goslin, have gone through, right? There are positions that might be eliminated, but there are people that might fill other positions that are not eliminated. And we have to go through that process. Are there vacant positions now because of a retirement that's not something we would eliminate, that somebody could fill, right? So we balance that with knowing who's going to fill positions that are not being cut with positions that are being cut that have people in them. So that might be a little confusing, but I hope I've been able to explain it a little bit. And the chart on the left you haven't seen yet, the chart on the right you have. Just trying to put it in context, right? That there's reductions that are typical on an annual basis that we do as part of the budget process, and there are reductions because we don't have enough money. These are here on the left because we don't have enough money in that line. Questions about that one? That was the one I was a little worried about. No? Okay. So now let's flip over because I think it's important that we see this as well. So on the, underneath the red arrow, the city proposed number for net school spending is $99,456,385. And so it's important for us to make sure people know what that is and that it's real. And so this is also something else that myself, Colleen, Ian, the principals, we all, somebody's watching it behind us. I love that. At least we know it's airing. That's good. It's streaming live. That's great. That was awesome. So on the side underneath the red arrow, that's the city proposed numbers. The bottom is going to be the same, but the net school spending operating is 99 million, what the city proposed on April. Are there questions? Did I screw? Did I mess them up? No, they should be exactly the same. You're just looking at the second column now. I'm sorry, because the first one column is the proposed budget. The numbers are the same, yes. Looking at a different column? Yes. Okay. Sorry. You're looking at the column with the red arrow under it now. Slide 8. Okay. So the city proposed budget for non-net wouldn't change. Again, the asterisk is still there. That was something that the mayor made an adjustment for today, that he would be willing to go to city council and ask them for their consideration for free cash to be able to balance that. Same exact slide. You've seen the same exact slide. I'm trying to show what the school committee proposed budget that was asked to be put in front of you tonight looks like, and what the city proposed budget looks like, so you have both of those. That's all I'm trying to do tonight, to make sure, because we haven't had that opportunity to put it in a package. So the city proposed budget, this chart goes with the handout that I gave you with the red and the green. Just want to make sure everybody's all right. Okay. So with the city proposed budget, if we go with 99 million as net school spending, it will result in, and again, as of today, this could change, and we're doing the best that we can, that this is the best, closest accurate estimate we have at this point as of 5 o'clock today, would result in 42 Unit A layoffs, 3 Unit B, and 5 unaffiliated. And the reason for that is because if you look at the chart, which again was hard to get into a slide, so the school committee has the handout, and there are people behind me who have the handouts as well. The chart has 3 layers to it, and this is, again, what gets really complicated. We're talking about movement of 600 to 800 people, looking at positions, looking at vacancies, looking at professional status. It's going to be quite the undertaking. But the top of that sheet is in green. Anything that is in green is a new request, a vacancy, a retirement that does not have a person in it for FY26. So the position is gone, but that is not resulting in a layoff. All right? In that same chart, there are positions in there that are yellow. Now, the yellow positions are positions that also are being eliminated. There are people in those positions, but those people will have jobs. So there are positions in the district for those people to fill. That might be a new service delivery need in the special ed department. It might be a vacancy in another school. It might be a vacancy in that school. That is an exercise also that Ms. McCarthy and Mr. Goslin and I did today. Again, real time, as real as it can be, with resignations, retirements, as of today. So is that first part? Does everybody understand that? So the green means there's nobody in it. Those positions are gone. It's a retirement, a vacancy, a new request. Nobody's in it, but they're gone. They're not in the budget. Yellow, there are definitely people in those yellow positions, but they have jobs. Okay? So now get to the middle section. So this is where the number of layoffs come from. So the middle section goes by school, position. Those positions mean that there are people in it, the position is gone, and that position being eliminated is going to result in a layoff. And it may mean the person currently in the position is layoff, or it may mean that that person's going to be bumping somebody else. It all depends on the contractual agreement that they're coming out of and their years of service. So the best example I can give of this is if you look at the high school, the full-time theater teacher position is being reduced. The theater teacher will be able to teach a hybrid of theater classes and English. That position is still going to be a layoff, because that teacher is going to bump somebody in the English department to do that. So it's still, that elimination of that position still results in a layoff. right? But it might not be that person, it might not look like that. Of course you can, please.
So I know you're talking about the theater position. Have you looked at the visual arts or the music department, since they have more than one? Not saying that I want any of those positions cut, but we only have one theater position. So have we looked in other places to eliminate one of those before we eliminate the theater?
Yes, so we had this conversation, I think, I don't know how many weeks ago now, so many different meetings. But the reason that it was the theater position, after Mr. Corrett and the directors looked at the requests, the amount of students that are requesting the course and the courses in the fine arts department, I have probably 25 to 30 students already in all of the fine arts classes. I do not have that in the theater classes. This is why we're saying if we consolidate some of those offerings and have that person be it's a hybrid position now.
Yeah, I understand.
So that they can
I just-
teach theater
it's-
courses
there's
and
7
teach
visual
English.
arts and 4 music and
Right.
1 theater. I just think that we couldn't do 6 visual arts.
It's, again, those classes are already at capacity. Mr. Barden, previous to Mr. Corrett, and I were trying to get in more visual arts because those classes are full. And with the Mass Core requirements, we do need we need the PEs and we need the fine arts courses in there, the art. Yeah, I know, I don't want to cut any of it. None of us do, I think, yeah.
Quick question. Also, when it comes to these layoffs, is this also with licensure as well?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that, Member DiZoglio. So the other part of this that could add another level of complication, and again, until we know where this is actually, lands, like falls and lands in the end, there may be people in this group in the red that have dual licensure. And if they're a second grade teacher and they have a special education license, I have a job for that person in this district, right? Because I have a lot of special ed openings as is. So that would be the next layer I'd have to look at. It's just the timing and the who. Like, we would actually have to know the who at that point to then look at the individual license. But yes, it's absolutely contingent upon licensure. Same way too, if for some reason their license expires this year, they're not going to be employable, right? We don't have many of those, but we certainly have to look at those and make sure that they don't have an expiration date before September 1st.
I was also like anybody in this like on waivers right now that are going through their MTELs.
Yep, that's exactly, that would
Same.
exactly be the group of people that we have to look at next, knowing who we're looking at. Yes, absolutely. It's license contingent upon licensure as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So going through this list, in the green column for the high school, I see CTE marketing and CTE EEC teacher.
Yep.
Those positions under Chapter 74 are revenue generating.
No, it's okay.
So for $150,000 worth of salary, to forego $150,000 worth of salary, we are giving up $2+ million. If my math is wrong, tell me, but $2+ million in revenue for the following year.
If this takes place, yes. Because
So-
those positions are in the budget that we presented with the.
Right.
Yep.
So we're willing to say, forget the $2 million next year. We don't need it because we don't want to spend $150 this year. Every single person in this room, if I said, give me $150,000 now and I'll give you $2 million next year, would hand me the money. They would find a way to get it. We're worried on the city side about putting in a grant writer and an economic development person because they're revenue generating. How many other positions in this city, in this department, are revenue generating? Anybody? Yeah, okay, I'll take the silence as not a lot. Those positions, we need to put those in. In my mind, those are one-time expenses because after that, they become self-funding. I have no problem, and I know it's not me, I know it's the mayor, going to the city and saying, listen, we need $150,000 to guarantee an extra $2 million every year going forward under Chapter 74. I can't see anybody in their right mind scoffing at that. It becomes a self-funding adventure from here on out. Plus, as I think maybe it was Member Willett said earlier, that may entice kids to stay here because now they're getting that real world experience that they're getting at GLTS. Besides that, the executive assistant, unless you can bully her into not retiring, is on here. And to be, I know you're not a department head, but you are in function and in design. To be the only department head in the city without at least one, never mind most of them that have 2 or 3, is ridiculous. They would never ask that from the chief of police or the fire chief or the DPW director or the mayor or anybody else. Zero people would we ask that from. But the superintendent's going to do it because it's the schools in Methuen, so have at it. Put it back. Thank you.
Okay, we'll put those back in. Any other questions about this budget and the reductions? Yep.
Dr. Kwan, can you just remind me how many positions were not filled last year or that we cut, just to get a sense of 41, Dr. Kwan?
Yeah, we
Dr. Kwan?
eliminated, 41 positions.
I know. I want to hear it, though.
We did eliminate 41 positions last year, and it was a combination of new requests, vacant, retire, all of those things. And there were 3 that were layoffs that were middle management from central office.
All middle management. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, and I just don't want to pile on, but you know it's been something that's really weighed heavily on me. The thought of our superintendent not having someone outside her office to do a variety of important tasks, but in God forbid we have a crisis, and I've been involved in those days where people have to communicate quickly and efficiently, and not to have someone picking up the phone and expecting you to do it all is one of the most inane, insane things I've ever heard. And I appreciate you putting it in there to make way for a student-facing position, but I think we're putting our teachers, our students in jeopardy by not having that position on the books. So I'm just adding to what Member Shabilia said.
And again, depending on
I know.
where the budget
Where we
lands,
land.
right? That what's being proposed tonight is not what is this, right? These
I
are the 2
understand.
different pathways.
Yep.
And again, I would be remiss if I would say, like, I truly mean that, working in a school is like nothing else. No other department, no other private industry, no other municipal department, because it changes day to day, right? So the number we have in here is gonna change based on how people are hired, people are resigning, people are leaving, people are going on leave. We get new information on a daily, weekly basis, so we've learned how to budget, we know how to do it, but it is a fluid process. So,
I just have a quick comment. We were talking about our students and keeping them safe. I really am worried about the positions in the slide that you showed us because I know, sorry.
that's okay. This one, slide 7.
Yeah. We have 4 K through 8 counselors and 4 K through 4 health positions and 2 PE positions. And I'm more worried now than I was before because there's so much going on in the news. These kids, they need that support. They 110, like, if anything else, we need to make sure that those positions somehow make its way back into this because our kids are at a serious, there's a concern for their mental health, for the bullying, for all of it. And if we cut more health positions and we cut K through 8 counselors, we're in trouble. The health positions, I mean, they're teaching bullying, they're teaching safety, they're teaching self-awareness, if we just need to make sure that those end up back in the budget because as a mom, that scares me the most. So just, I don't know if we need to go to the city council with that and maybe ask for more. I'm not sure. But I'm scared. So we need to make sure that those make its way back in.
I think we can all say this all again, and everybody here is going to agree. I'm not speaking for everybody, but none of us want any of this. But this is where we're at, and I'm hearing you loud and clear. I don't want 27 kids in a second grade classroom either. None of us do, right? But we're trying to figure out how to navigate this to also, again, we have to educate the best we can, and we have to function as an organization the best that we can. All aspects of it, right? How we function, how we feed children, how we make sure our state reporting gets done. There's all those aspects that we still have to make sure. So again, none of us want to be in this position. So I agree with you. But we can't the other thing we can't do right now is keep saying, put everything back, because we've worked, right? Like there's going to be a number that we're going to get to, and maybe there's some room within the number to start switching things around, but there's going to be a number that we are going to have to live with, and we can fine tune some of these things. But our job right now is to get to a number, and really, again, this is a human resource business that we're in with our teachers and our children. And so we also have to keep that in mind. In the next 2 weeks, there are people, and many of them sitting behind me, but many of them aren't here because they're tending to their own children and everything else, that are very anxious about whether or not they're going to have a job next year. And so that's a very real part of our job, is to make sure that we don't miss, that we do this right, and we do it the right way, and make sure that people are aware of what's happening. And the best case scenario would be, and I'm going to just say it now, I know the mayor and I talked about this today, I'm still very hopeful at the state level that things are going to change, and there's going to be some additional dollars coming our way. The problem is the timing. We just won't know any of those potential dollars until this process has to end. Right? So I'm still hopeful that whatever our number is that we land on, that there will be some additional funds coming in the summer that we can bring layers of people back, right? Because if some of the numbers that I hear very loud and clear, people are talking about now that have never talked about circuit breaker and changing the regulations of circuit breaker the way they're talking about it now, that is a long-term game changer for us, not just a one-time supplemental budget, hand us some money. That changes the law and how the money is reimbursed back to cities, right? So that's what we're looking forward to. And again, I can only be hopeful. I think the mayor and I both said that we agreed a lot on that today, that we have to be hopeful, but we can't count on that, right? We're hopeful that that happens, and if that happens, we're able to say, wow, okay, we have $1 million back, we have $2 million, now what can we bring back? We bring the school committee back and say, this is good news, right? Like, how do we move forward from there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm looking at the greens again and the reds, and I see, first off, the custodians, which I've been advocating for. We just did all this cleaning, and again, our custodians are overwhelmed constantly and working. So they need that extra support. But the most important thing, all I keep reading on when I'm reading on this list is the reading specialists. And you just said it best. We need to learn to educate properly and operate properly. How can you educate properly when you don't have the reading specialists to help our kids read? How can you clean the buildings when we don't have enough custodians? So how can we function if we don't have these positions in place? Which I know, Dr. Kwong, that you're in that position, and you and I both know that we need them. But how can we sit here and say we're going to function and educate properly when our benchmarks are the way they are, and we're taking away the sources that's going to move us forward? As as our teachers are going to be overwhelmed to teach our kids how to read. I'm taking courses myself now because we don't have reading specialists. So I'm learning how to do it myself, but it is very stressful. And I don't know if I can make that decision to put that stress on our teachers, and I won't do it. So, yeah, that's all I gotta say.
To Member DiZoglio, go with me here. To get where we need to be, there would have to be layoffs to police and fire. How many is the appropriate number of firefighters to lay off? And how many is the appropriate number of police to lay off? And then what is the appropriate number for teachers to lay off? And clearly I asked that question to you as a sarcastic jab at our system. That's what it is. And I look at this and I see 50 reduction here. I count 48 on this sheet. I guess before I continue, Dr. Kwong, what is the number of pink slips that'll have to go out June 15th? And now, as I asked that, keeping fully aware that the city council moved their budget hearing and votes to after June 15th, without consulting the mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, without consulting your office or this body, completely oblivious or with lack of awareness to the fact that we are contractually obligated to issue notices by June 15th, which is going to increase the number that you have to give me.
Right.
What do we have to give out on June 15th?
So
Ballpark.
what you're looking at here on this grid. So it would be close to 50, this grid here. And Colleen and I did make a phone call to Attorney Maccaro to say, are we right in saying that tonight? And he confirmed that if we do not have a number that is in effect a final number, then we would have to go with whatever the mayor is presenting to the city as a number. And if it's 99 million, then we would have to go through this exercise again, because again, some of this is going to change in the next 3 weeks to determine how many we're giving off. So I'm not going to give an exact number, but it's going to be this chart. It's going to be around this chart, depending on if we have additional resignations or leaves. But we would have to do that regardless. So if the school committee votes tonight for the budget that you have asked us to present tonight, regardless of that, we would have to go with whatever that city number is to the city council because it's not final.
I made some notes today, and I didn't have any paper, so I made do with what I had.
Okay.
I found a paper plate.
Okay.
In FY '24, we were 1.27% over our net school spending. In the same fiscal year, Peabody was 10%, Framingham was 25%, Haverhill was 6%, Malden was 2.1%, and Salem was 24.3%. All cities that we are comparable to, that we have, the union has compared us to. Methuen, 1.27%. And except for the proposal that the mayor has put forth thus far, that is the highest we've been in 7 years.
You could probably say 10 or 15.
All right, well, I didn't go back that far, but I take your word for it.
I'm just saying, definitely 10.
I'm concerned, and I want to acknowledge the good first, because I've been told that I don't acknowledge the good. The mayor's budget that he is presenting is a bigger year-over-year increase than has ever been presented to the school. However, unfortunately, it comes at a time where everything is bigger year-over-year than it has ever been. It's the reality that we face as a society. That being said, our net school spending is not indicative of a city our size. I said it the other day, we treat it as a benchmark, we treat it as a threshold, not anything else. These other cities are blowing it out of the water. I worry that we are cutting 50 people, and there is not a single reduction in staff currently in discussion from my perspective. Granted, the city budget has not come out yet, but from my discussion with anybody in the city proposed for the following fiscal year on the city side. And while I'm not suggesting we decimate police, fire, DPW, senior center, anything else, it's another year of the school carrying the burden. And I know that we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I'm not sure how any of us vote on this in good conscience, and we send something to the city council, which the mayor is under no obligation to send forth the budget we put forth tonight, because it's his budget, not ours. But how that we do this, acting under the assumption that there's no cuts on the city side, because firefighters and police and DPW are more important than education. I don't know. Looking at the net school spending, looking at the list of people here to lay off, knowing that today I spent 4.5 hours at the zoo, and sitting on the bus on the way home, I thought, oh my God, give the teachers all the money because I know I could never do this. Dude, it was wild. I almost jumped out of the window. People were crying. Brandy, it was
I believe you.
intense.
I believe you.
I know we're not going to get to where we want to be, but I want to see the CTE positions back in. I want to see the executive assistant put back in. And I want to be able to be sure that we have the right to I don't even know the word, retain our right to revisit this at some point later on. Because if the council has their hearings and it comes to fruition that there's not a single cut being made on the city side, I don't want to play nice. I don't want to send them an easy budget so they can be, well, the school asked us for 100, and we're going to give them 100. But that's not what we wanted. We put forth the wish list just like every other department did. To say that we've cut other departments when they haven't had any pain like the school is having, ever, that happened. So do we have that ability, and do we have the ability to revisit this in the future before the budget is approved at some point in June, July?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
I believe that whatever number you guys vote on will go up there, and they'll probably end up being some kind of a form of compromise, hopefully, or city council could just turn around and say, you know, you're gonna take the mayor's number, and then we'll be coming back here to make sure you guys are okay with how we do that. You know, this is our recommendation if we have to go that way, but, you know, there will be some changes. And I do want to note that the compromised budget numbers that you do have there at about 510, we did put the CTE positions back in.
Okay.
So that's included in that 102 number, as well as the executive assistant is also back in. However, we go to the 99 million, that's when those would have to come out.
We have two different things. That's why I'm saying we have this page here with all of those things on it are to get to the 99
I wish I had
million,
two
right?
charts.
So we're still having
wish I
some
had two of
layoffs
these.
with the compromise, but, what's that?
I wish I had two of these for the two budgets that we have in front of us.
Well, you do, the other one's just smaller on a chart. I'm sorry. It's just a smaller chart because it's less, it ends up being less people
Just to provide some clarification.
for the budget part of it.
Just to provide some clarification for our discussion, I have not submitted the budget to the city council yet. I've been holding off until we have an official determination regarding the schools tonight. But nevertheless, I can fill you in just on my thought process as it relates to what Member Shabelia mentioned. The police chief came in with his requests. I trimmed $1.2 million off of the PD request going into the new fiscal year. We're taking 2 cops and 2 firefighters out of the budget and funding them using opioid money. So we're getting creative with that. I've been in the process of reorganizing DPW to achieve savings as well. The thing that I need to mention, just to guide our discussion tonight. So we have the first number, the 102. I am required to submit to the city council a balanced budget. I cannot not submit a balanced budget to them. If the 102 number is what the school committee voted in favor of tonight, I would not be presenting, if I were to put that number forward, that would not be a balanced budget. 99,456,385 in net school spending, that would be a balanced budget. But keep in mind, I also am going to the city council with an ask to take more out of free cash in order to bridge the non-net gap that we have. So the city council approved a $900,000 transfer on Monday night to cover one-time special ed costs in fiscal year '25. Part of this understanding is we would need to go to them again in fiscal year '26 to cover one-time special ed costs in fiscal year '26. This isn't counting the 1.6 here. So the point that I'm trying to make is that I need to have a balanced budget here, and I'm also taking extraordinary measures on the free cash side to try to balance us out so that we don't have more than 100 layoffs. If I do not go to the council with an ask for free cash of 1.6, we would have a non-net gap of 1.6, of course. The superintendent would have no choice but to go deeper into the net number for more layoffs. So if we did not go to the council for the free cash, we would be looking at, would you say 100 or more layoffs?
I'd say another 1.6 million in staffing, because again, I don't know where
Right.
to take it from. So we'd have to look at what that would be. So, yeah, probably another 25, 30 people.
So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get us as close as we can to that initial compromise number. I'm not satisfied with literally any of this. If I could, I would give our teachers, our schools, literally every cent that they ask for. But the issue is that I need to find a balance, and we need to have a balanced budget. So I just wanted to state that to guide the conversation. The vice chair wanted to say something.
Do I know? Okay. Lori, can I
So-
finish before we?
Sure,
That's
go
fine.
ahead.
So I fully recognize and understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. Dr. Kwong, can you tell me what the number was in our original proposal that came forth when we started this? It was 120 and change?
For net school
Yes,
spending?
the one that you put forward back in March.
Yes, with all the
Yes.
things that, yes. for
It was
needs.
120?
It was 115, 20?
I believe it was 120 for non-net, for net
Non-net.
school spending.
120 for net.
Net school spending.
And
Non-net hasn't changed.
Now we're down to 102? So 18 million, using that math on how the department for the PD was cut by 1.2 million. We've been cut by 18 million.
No, that's not correct. So from the initial wish list, excuse me, with the 108,913,147, the cut from the wish list is 15,537,000 roughly. So overall, across the entire city, I have cut roughly 19 million altogether off of initial requests across the city. Now,
Does
mind
that
you,
include the 15 from the school?
it does, but here's the thing.
Included in the 19?
Keep in mind that 15 is being adjusted because I'm going up another 1.6 with the additional ask of free cash.
Okay, but every department, schools included, comes to the mayor with their proposal when we start budget planning. And they say, this is what we'd like. And of course, it's high and it's got all the bells and whistles in it. Every single department, police, fire, school, DPW, everybody across the board. Our budget is clearly bigger because we are the biggest department in the city. But to say that the school, the wish list from the PD was cut by 1.2, then to look at what our wish list was and to where it was cut and to where it's ending up, and then to say that we're getting creative and moving firefighters from this pay line item to that pay line item, and we're reorging the DPW to make it more efficient. What I hear is we're going to make sure we don't have to lay people off on the city side. And and you know that I have a visceral problem with that. And I think everyone at the table knows it. I don't understand why we are okay saying all the layoffs will come from the school, but we're gonna find ways to keep every single employee, and Mayor Perry created a lot of positions over the last 5 years, some of them 100% justified, just as every one of these is. But we won't even venture to say, okay, we may need to lose 3 people from this line item. We may need to lose a person from this department. And I know some of them are 4-people departments, and it's not comparable, and it's not gonna be, well, you're gonna lose 23% because you can't have a third of a person. But all the bloodshed is from the schools every year, every single year. And we need to change that. There needs to be equality in this city. We changed the culture in the police department, but we didn't change the entitlement. And we didn't change it in the fire department, and we haven't changed it anywhere else. On the other side of the wall that separates Methuen Public Schools from Methuen, we have not changed the entitlement. And that is my biggest issue right now.
Thank you, Member Shabilia. So I respectfully, Member Shabilia, I've been in this office officially now, I'm now, I think, in month number 5. There are a lot of institutional changes that our city needs. I'm doing the best I can with what I have here. And I'm truly not okay with any of what we're talking about. But just like for an example, the fire department, we have several folks in the fire department who are out with terrible illness, and we have a higher number than we've ever had this year. We have several folks who are out on, say, military leave. If I were to start to cut deeper into, say, the fire department, we'd be talking about shutting down ambulances and the like. And so I don't see how, I'm trying to get to that point where we're achieving balance and not sacrificing the good in pursuit of the perfect. And I'm not saying that any of this is good. I'm just saying conceptually that this is something that we're doing the very best we can with what we have as we pursue additional changes in the future, which will take time. Vice Chair.
So I've been very realistic, and I understand that we don't have enough money. And I understand that we have to have some cuts on the school sides. I completely understand that, and I've been realistic the entire time. I've been very consistent. I'm very rational, very realistic on this. However, your number is going to decimate the schools. We cannot, in good conscience, vote for this number because it is not okay. And I understand we have to have some cuts. I get it. And I don't love the cuts that we have, that we've asked the superintendent to give us. I don't love them. I would like to put all of them back, but I understand we have to have some cuts. So I'm gonna be okay, not okay, but I'm gonna support that, but I cannot support this ridiculousness of completely destroying the schools. It's not okay. We have to teach our kids to read. We have to. We have to keep our class sizes down. We have worked so hard. When my oldest was in kindergarten, she had 36 kids in her kindergarten class. We have worked so hard. Dr. Kwong has worked so hard to get those numbers down. Do you want your daughter going into kindergarten with 36 kids in her class? It's not okay. It's just not okay. We've worked so hard. We got so much money from the SOA, and the state gave us money. We use that money to fill positions, to bring class sizes down, to get the services that we need, and we're doing it. And is it perfect? No. Do we need more money to do it? Yes. But we've been doing the best we can. But now you're asking us to cut all those positions that we added because of the SOA money to make sure that our kids can read. And now you're asking us to cut it all, get rid of it all, and just not educate our kids. It's not okay. I cannot support your number.
I'm not asking for any of that. I'm not asking for any of that. I'm not coming to you and saying, please do this. I'm not asking for any of this. All I'm saying is that we need to fit within a number that will provide for a balanced budget and will allow me to go to the city council and get 6 votes to take more out of free cash in order to fund the schools. I'm not asking for any of this. None of this is good. I'm doing the best I can. Member Donovan?
I was just hoping that Dr. Kwong could finish, there's some really interesting data in here. I'm so sorry. I think there's some very interesting data from DESI that the team put together that would be important for you to review for us.
I'll keep going, yes? Okay. So the next two slides are some of that data that I think, for me, just being in the position that I've been in, more in the past 13 years as assistant superintendent, as superintendent, having been part of the school committee in the process for that many years under 4 different mayors and many different school committees. There's often a conversation and what people throw out and see if it sticks. And I know we've had this conversation here, and I just thought, again, this is someplace that all of you could point people to as well, when other people who aren't here and understand this information start talking about it or making those assumptions. But this is not me. I did not type this. These are images taken directly from the DESI website. They have a financial platform that they opened, in the fall of this year, which has been really helpful for us to see sort of where we stand per pupil expenditure. And you can compare it with any district you want. You can look at your own district. You can compare it with any other district. So as you can see, I pulled out 6 of the districts that either we talk about often or the state considers us comparable to. And just, again, all of these numbers are the per pupil expenditure allocation, right? So they're all based on whatever our per pupil expenditures are. And for me, I really want people to see there's a lot more information than this. I specifically pulled out this data. The data, you can't even print it. It goes across a spreadsheet, and there's just multiple columns. But I think the student demographics was important to see. There's a lot of conversation spoken about here on English learner headcounts and students with disabilities. And I think it's important, again, I know I say it, but sometimes we have to see it from somebody else. Our special education numbers are not out of the realm of state averages. There's a few schools here, one in particular that's a lot higher than ours, but our in-district and out-of-district numbers, the cost of those students may be high, and we're experiencing that in a lot of districts, and this is what I've been trying to advocate for, because we are trying to educate our kids in district before sending out, and we do a really good job of that, but we also have a capacity limit of space, of expertise, of what actual disabilities and services kids need that we can provide as a public school. There are some services that we just cannot provide to students that an out-of-district placement is able to provide to our students, which is why they would be there. The next one, which this one is close to my heart because this conversation has probably been going on maybe the 20 plus years I've been here. People keep saying we are top heavy. I keep having to be on the defensive every single year. I feel like I'm on the defensive every single year I present a budget, but more so defending the job that our administrators do and what our administrators do that are multiple jobs, because in other districts there are multiple administrators covering transportation. There are multiple administrators covering curriculum development. And if you see there, per pupil, Methuen out of those 6 schools is the absolute lowest per pupil for administration costs. So share this with whoever you need to share it with to stop that narrative, because it is just not true. I compared this, I would say maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I pulled it when we tried to do a reorganization of the central office to show most districts, I should have done it, but most districts on this list have a deputy superintendent, a director of curriculum, an assistant superintendent for student services, finance separate from transportation. So the organization of a district with 6,000 to 7,000 students is not typical of what ours looks like. There are 5 central office administrators that do it all. And the buildings are no different. There are schools that have assistant principals by grade levels. There are deans in many of the schools that unfortunately got cut years ago because of budget reasons. So I feel very strongly about this. This is constantly a conversation that people out in the community have, that we are top-heavy and just get rid of all the principals, get rid of all the APs, get rid of us. Again, I don't know how we function as an organization to support our teachers, our students, our families without all of those pieces of the organization. So again, I feel strongly about that one because that has been a long-standing issue in this community. And then the last block on the last right there is basically just showing that per pupil, we are also the lowest. Our total expenditures in district and as a total are the lowest of those 6 as of 2024 that you see. So there's just some facts here. This isn't stuff that we're making up. This is data that we are submitting to DESE. They look at our budgets. We have to certify our year-end, budgets, and they know how much we spend on our reporting that we do every year on staffing. And again, we do reporting multiple times a year. So we have a pretty good sense that the data we're sending to DESE is accurate. I only have access to this.
Member
So,
DeSalvio?
So I don't need to share it. I'm going to just ask one person right now. Ian, do you feel like we're top-heavy?
I would say no.
How many jobs do you do in this label? Wait, first initiate, what are you supposed to be doing? Your first real job?
he's the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, so.
I know, but what else do you do?
Well, I am the Transportation Department. I oversee facilities, food services, budget, finance, payroll.
Thank you. You just answered the question. We're not top-heavy.
Hey, I'll give you a bigger list tomorrow. Forgot half of them.
All right, and so the next one I have, this one I'm putting out there just so that there's data out there. This isn't, I'm maybe not as burned by this information as I was the previous, but we thought this one was good, and a lot of other districts around us are starting to use this data as well to show. But as of this school year, there's conversations too about teachers leaving in droves and what are we doing, and I also just want to show the people who are here want to be here. I see it. I live in this community. My neighbors are teachers. I certainly am concerned about this conversation that we're having about the budget because people have left districts that have been there for 20 years because they've wanted to be in Methuen, and now they're first or second year teachers here because this is where they wanted to be. And so it does concern me that it's going to be really challenging for us to recruit and retain teachers after a year like this year. And again, not uncommon, happening right in our neighborhood, right next in towns next to us as well, going through some really challenging times. But just some interesting information about that retention. I did put an asterisk because the 6 to 3 for principals on a normal day could be concerning, but those were all accounted for, obviously, from the Tenney principal retired, the high school principal did resign, and we have to, at Branch Street, because it is a school designation by DESE, the special ed administrator also has to be designated the principal, and she is now teaching at Branch Street.
Who's the principal at Branch Street?
So the special ed administrator, so right now it would be Kelly Blanchette is the special ed administrator that runs the preschool. She has to have a designation of special ed administrator and principal. We have to designate a person as the contact. Gina actually is the second contact for Branch Street as an administrator. So again, just thought I would throw that out there to compare to some of our other communities. Taunton is a little bit higher than us, but an 88% retention rate is pretty good. It's higher than the state average. Obviously, we want it to be higher than that, but it's a pretty good retention rate when you're talking about the number of teachers that we have. Again, my goal would be to retain all of them, and I'm very worried about this budget cycle not helping our retention rate of teachers. And then just some context, this is conversation that we've had, but again, I'm trying to sum this up for the conversation today and the hearing and the vote. This experience that we're having is certainly not unique. I've been saying this. I really do hope people are seeing and reading and understanding what's happening across the state. It is the four things here. If I pulled up, I just recently did, but like Salem, Massachusetts is going through it. It's the same four reasons that are landing school districts in this position at this time, and it's only going to continue over time. The Chapter 70 formula, everybody knows it's not adequate, it's not equitable, it needs to be changed. There's legislation to move forward with a commission again to change that formula. That's not going to happen overnight, right? That will be if the commission is created to change the formula and look more at equity. It's probably going to be a few years out before that formula actually changes, that we see a difference for that. The rising out-of-district tuitions, I think the conversation about circuit breaker and the bills in the House and the Senate right now that are really pushing for a change in reimbursements for those out-of-district tuitions and transportation is real. I've never been so involved in conversations with my colleagues, legislators. Everybody is going to benefit from that change. So the drive to push that change is very real, and that's that change, if some of those bills do get passed with this budget, we will see immediate change and an immediate benefit from that. So we are pushing hard. I would continue to ask everybody to push our legislation, who has been outstanding, Rep. Hamilton and Senator Piano. They have been absolutely responsive and fantastic when it comes to education funding. They're seeing the need for it in Haverhill and Lawrence, here in Methuen. And again, I've never had more conversations with legislators as I have this year. And so I really am hopeful that that passes.
I think it's worth noting that the out-of-district tuition rates have gone up almost 18% in 2 years.
Yes,
They've
that is correct.
Increased faster than the price of eggs.
Yes.
So I think that's just important for people to know, and those are set by our friends up at Ashburton Place at OSD.
Yes.
And we have zero negotiation power on any of that.
Right. And there's a link on the state website that actually shows what those tuitions are. That's what we plug in as the day programs and residential programs for FY26.
Member Willett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to add to what the superintendent had indicated, Senator Piano had signed on to two major amendments, one dealing with the circuit breaker and also dealing with an infusion of $200 million that was withdrawn from the House to add to Chapter 70 to add for, to account for inflation.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you.
Yep, perfect.
So the question I also, and I was wondering, what would be the number to bring us to resource level funding? Meaning no additions, but no cuts. Everything remains the same.
So level services.
Level services.
I don't have that number readily available.
Okay.
It would be more than what we're asking for.
Oh, I know that.
Okay.
But it's not the 120.
No.
It'd be, I would think it would be close to like one, and I'm throwing an estimated like 112, maybe 113.
Probably less than that. It would be, if the 102, we're still having 20 layoffs or so, you're looking at maybe a 105 would be level services, I'm guessing. And, I mean, you know, I'm estimating right now, but it's not gonna be 115 or 120. You're talking about level service, right? So level
Yeah.
service is just carry forward what you
I always throw a
have.
higher number out there, so when it comes back
Right.
better.
Level
then-
funded is, we get the same amount of money as last year, and that
Yeah.
is, you know,
Yeah.
catastrophic
Yeah.
reductions.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. That's why I'm saying level of
like.
services.
Right.
Could we get that number? Because I'd rather support that budget than have cuts.
We can, I don't know, we have, we have 3 different workbooks going right now.
I know you
With
do.
3 different scenarios, right? We have, I don't even know what they are anymore, but we have the getting to the 99, we have a workbook ready to go. We have adjustments that we made for tonight. What's the third one?
The one
The
we
original?
posted in the Tribune,
Oh, we have the one we posted in the Tribune, which is a little different than tonight's.
and the fourth one's the original.
The original. So we can, it also makes it challenging because on this chart that you see, and I'm sorry it printed a little darker than I wanted to, but I just wanted to make the colors different. The bottom chart there in green, those are the only positions left that are new, and they're for services, right? So there's a lot of, and again, it's hard to see, and I'm so sorry. But a lot of those are one-to-ones, one-to-one for medical, speech, OT, they're service delivery positions that if we don't have those, we absolutely are not going to be servicing our students. So those are the only ones that are left. So level services is hard for a school, but it, would be these plus
Yeah.
the
you-
current staff that we have
Yeah.
in addition to
Like if
these.
you had to add those,
Correct.
start from there.
But
and
we've
then you
also
add it.
reduced some of the
Yeah.
services by whatever, program assistants or whatever too. So, the
Yeah.
service delivery is
But
often where it's a little bit unbalanced.
but I think that would be something.
I mean, we can give a number, I'm just not sure,
Yeah.
it might not be perfectly accurate, but we can give an estimated amount of what a level service budget would be.
Just
I
keep
don't
in
think I
mind,
could do
Member
it right now.
Pizzavio, I need a balanced budget here, and I need to also go to the council to get more out of free
Timing,
cash.
yeah,
Yeah.
So.
the timing
need
of
to live within
doing more.
realistic boundaries here.
So that's the last slide. I hope that is helpful to all of you, just to put it into a package that we haven't been able to do yet, so you can see what it looks like with the proposal that you asked me to prepare for tonight and post, what the city proposal looks like, and that we're prepared for that if it should go that way. And I would just continue to remind all of you, I am here to advocate for the school department and doing the best that I can to service students and families and staff. The decision, I am here to recommend a budget to you. The decision of the budget falls into your hands. It is at the will of the school committee. It's a huge decision, but it is one of the most important parts of being on this school committee. I know I said it last time, but I will say it again. I am here to recommend. I have to advocate for what I believe in. I know that we have to balance a budget. I know that we have to continue to move our kids forward in this community. And I know that we are facing challenging times, and I don't see that ending. Meaning, I don't think this is it. So I, we're prepared, I knew this was going to be a challenging budget, and started conversations internally with our department in January, as soon as the governor's budget came out. So, again, I don't see the challenges that we might be facing. They might change over the course of a year, but the FY27 budget, I do not see being any less challenging. And so we need to be prepared for that. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we have to get through FY26 first and do everything that we can within our power and our authority to do that.
And just to state for the record, we're going to be doing things differently for fiscal year '27. Preparations for that budget are going to begin immediately after we adopt this one. Member Maxwell?
Just a question. Why do we have to compromise on our balanced budget when 19 million is what you're saying, and we're 15 million out of that 19? Why can't that come from other departments?
So the schools are more than half of the overall budget, so that's why if you look at it proportionally, overall, the school department, we're going up 4% year over year. On the city side, otherwise, across the board, it's going up roughly 3. So we're trying to just balance that out.
But that's I mean, that's, it's not even comparable. 15 million to 4 million, that's not even comparable.
We have to think of it like a percentage. Member Willett?
I just want to emphasize, because I served on the city council, I served on the school committee. There's absolutely no one in this room that voted for or justified the Superior Officer's contract. It became a national laughingstock on those contracts. We're still living with the legacy of those contracts. So I don't want to be grouped in with that bunch of people that on their watch, again, excluding the mayor, excluding many people, but you had a group of individuals that fell asleep and approved an outrageous superior officer's contract that became a laughingstock of the nation, that we're still dealing with that legacy. So as a fiscal conservative, I am outraged that we still have that process, but we're subject to contract negotiations. Now, we might have future retirements, and again, I'm so happy that the superintendent, because I've been talking about it for 2 years. I've had the Pioneer Institute, and now we have DESE. We are not a top-heavy administration. So I just want to talk about those 2 major points. Now, there'll have to be revenue enhancers to this community. And that might be pot dispensaries. That might be us joining the GIC. That might be solar energy with the schools. We're going to have to think outside the box as a community. It's very challenging as a new mayor that wants to reform the system, wants to add more money to the schools, right, to deal with the legacy of massive mistakes in the past. And it was comical that it was the husband of a former mayor that was critical of you about repairing a wall at the Searles building when she purposely drained accounts under her watch, okay? The cash reserves have been outstanding over the last few years, and now we're going to attempt a balance and restore maintenance needs to the schools, to replace boilers, to replace a roof at the Timony, to do all these enhancements, and to also backfill on special education. But it's an interesting dynamic of people have like collective amnesia that a former mayor drained all these accounts, right? And then she is a fiscal conservative. Absolutely not. You had a person that fell asleep regarding the Superior Officer's contract. So when Member Shabilia is mentioning items, right, I'm on the same page with him. But I'm also trying to find a compromise, and I absolutely understand what the mayor's trying to say. If we pass an inflated budget, it's going to be a massive reduction, and we're going to have layoffs. If we can do partially through the cash reserves, and I'm not a big fan of that, we can sell the surplus schools, have it revert back to the city, build up the cash reserves, sell the Searles building under certain parameters, right, and refocus our energies on the schools going forward. But it also has to be a give and take of reform measures. And some of them are not going to be comfortable. Some of them might be opposed by the unions. We're going to have retirements. We're going to have consolidation. We're going to really look at the city side and the school side. We're going to wait the results of the audit, okay? So I don't want to put everything on your page, Mr. Mayor, because I don't think it's fair to you for the past sins of this community. I just want to say that for the record. And Member Shabilia, I appreciate your energy, I really do. And I respect the members of the school committee, and I've had disagreements with the superintendent, and we've had open dialogue and open communication. And again, I understand Member DiZoglio, but the reality is we have to get closer to balanced budget, or at least some semblance of a balanced budget, and fight for those cash reserves. And that's what we have to do. We have a responsibility as a school committee to do those things. But there was a lot of misinformation, not from the current school committee or from the current occupant of the mayor's office or a lot of the city councilors. It was a previous mayor's and a previous city council that dropped the ball for this community, and we're cleaning up the mess. So I just want to say that for the record. Thank you.
Member Shabilia?
First and foremost, I'd like to go back to what Member Maxwell had to say about the percentage. This is not a percentage issue. The school is 100% the biggest department, quite literally bigger cumulatively than all of the other departments put together. Is that accurate? And out of all of the other departments, DPW is not getting new roads and new pipes. The fire department does not have people out there creating new issues short of a new COVID-type event. And the same can be said for every department. I said it before, I'll say it again, and everyone knows it. We are the only department that can't control our expenses. Not because we can't, but because we are not allowed to, because we take what shows up at our door. So to say it as a percentage and to say, well, you're the biggest, you have to lose the most, is stupid. It is. There's no two ways around it, and not to mince words. And I also feel the need to say it out loud, like, when Mayor Beauregard took office, I was thrilled. And you know this better than anybody. I want to support you 1,000%. And the fact that we have to be at odds over the budget gives me a pit in my stomach. But it's not a percentage, and it's not our job to present a balanced budget. To the 6 of us around the table, excluding the mayor, it is not our job to present a balanced budget. It is our job to advocate for the schools. We have a high but shrinking free cash account right now for 2 major reasons. We had a free fall of money during COVID. We had ESSER, we had ARPA, we had CARES money, and it was kind of a perfect storm of chaos that gave us a lot. We got a lot done with it, don't get me wrong. But we were also able to stick a lot of it in free cash. We also have been perpetually underfunding this city for decades, and not just the schools. The DPW still has a building that they can't go into because it doesn't have a roof. And not like the day that the Tenny didn't have a roof, but like this roof has gone perpetually. We have underfunded everything, and we have put money into free cash. And while I agree, you ready for this? I agree with Member Willett. I am not a fan of taking from free cash, but the fact that we have built free cash on the backs of our budget by neglecting things in previous administrations is something we need to correct. But I am not voting tonight, whenever it is on this agenda, to pass a budget at the number that we're being asked to. I don't like it, but I will agree to the compromised budget, as long as it includes those CTEs and the executive assistant, which I think it does. It does. Because it is not our job to present a balanced budget, it's our job to advocate for the kids. And most of us around this table have to send our kids to school in August. It's gonna suck regardless. It is. And I know that you don't like that, and I know that it's go and figure it out. But there's no good cuts. I will be agreeable to the compromised budget and let it fall where it may.
Member DiZoglio? Member Donovan?
I
Then
think-
Member DiZoglio.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, we have people here who obviously we want to hear from. I'm wondering if we can hear from them and then continue the debate. I do have a couple of questions, but I'd certainly be willing to wait until we hear from members of our audience.
And we're going to have further discussion opportunity when we actually go to approve
Right, I think that might be.
That's fine, we can do that.
Okay with that?
Yep, that's fine. So at this point, what we'll do is we're moving on from the superintendent's presentation to the public hearing portion. I'm going to share, we have some people who have signed up. We've had some folks submit comments in writing, so we'll begin with the people in the room. Ben Thompson?
Okay. Good evening. You guys all know me at this point. I'm PA DeMarsh. So the numbers of my speech are based on the numbers I had from the 12th. So there may be a few differences, but just the overall gist and theme is the same. So good evening, Mayor Beauregard, Methuen School Committee, and the City of Methuen. I want to start with thanking Mayor Beauregard, Dr. Kwong, for working with the Methuen Education Association to go to the State House and speak on Chapter 7, to advocate for more Chapter 70 funding, which would bring almost $3 million additional dollars into the city and help us in our current budget crisis, because that's what it is. I remain deeply concerned about the loss of almost 80 teachers, plus or minus. I know it's a little different from the numbers presented tonight across the district. This is primarily targeted towards upper elementary and middle school positions, which are critical aids of stated student development. The affected departments include grade level teachers, lower school bonus, Spanish, physical education, and many more positions, including in special education. The Marsh alone includes kindergarten, first grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, seventh grade teacher, and 2 8th grade teachers, one of whom which is here tonight. Her Jenna Gagnon, she is a dedicated educator of the district, and she actually, on her lunch duty yesterday, performed a Heimlich maneuver on a choking student. And without her being there, he may not have made it. They may not have made it. Overall, these budget cuts are going to have significant negative impacts on our students and the staff members that remain, because the class size will be larger and it's going to be harder for the teachers in those classrooms to meet their needs. Previously, on April 16th, I went into depth on the negative impact and cuts to physical education, the arts, literacy instruction, and English as a second language instruction, when having students today I'm going to touch upon areas in my speech, the areas that I was not able to touch upon on the 16th, including the nursing staff, lower school illness, middle school Spanish, and the importance of having enough substitute teachers, which I think is often overlooked. At the beginning of the school year, Methuen Public School was critically understaffed of nurses. In fact, the Marsh was the only school that had fully staffed nurses at the beginning of the school year. And I was very shocked to find out that Stephanie Sowers, our medical assistant, was at risk of losing her job. She's been a consistent face in the Marsh for many years, and she's hardworking, and she's friendly with the students. Nurses play a lot of important roles at a school. They help students if they're feeling sick, if they get hurt at recess or in physical education. They keep spare clothes students who have accidents and provide feminine hygiene products to students who need them. Without them, nurses will have a harder time meeting the needs of those students at the Marsh, which currently has 1,100 students. On a related note, I am deeply disturbed by the proposed elimination of the LPN nurse that serves the students in the medically fragile program at the CGS. This puts the students in the medically fragile program in danger, as they have complex medical needs that go beyond the training and skills of your average school nurse. According to the Massachusetts Organization for Medical Collaboratives, these needs can include, but aren't limited to, feeding tubes, seizures, and respiratory challenges. Without dedicated nurses and medically fragile students, CGS's busy nurses will have to take time away from serving the general education students to focus on the needs of these students. Not to mention have to take the extra training to serve them. I'm also concerned with the lower school wellness program being lost at the elementary school level. Again, we typically think of health as something you see in middle and high school, but early intervention helps. It was developed to help and to integrate into the general curriculum, skill like critical life skills, such as how to express their emotions in a helpful way and identify them, how to the importance of treating everybody with respect and why bullying is wrong and how to handle situations when bullying is involved, how basic nutrition and the importance of exercise, and how to know whether an adult is a safe person you can trust. Students then take what they learned in lower school onus and bring it to upper school hub as foundational level. I'm also very concerned about the potential loss of middle school Spanish. In a city as ours, with a diverse population, it is, especially with a large Latino population, this hurts both our Latino students and our English-speaking students. Due to the hard work of our middle school Spanish teachers, students receiving engaging, culturally relevant, and high-quality lessons that prepare them to have conversations in Spanish with people in the real world, and they will be able to skip Spanish 1 in high school. This brings English-speaking students closer to their Spanish-speaking peers, and bilingual students closer to their Spanish-speaking families. This is an incredible opportunity for middle schoolers that I was never able to get, and it would be a shame if it was lost. The last issue I want to touch upon is the importance of having enough voting-based educators or substitute teachers. Since I joined the district in 2022, we have struggled to have enough substitute teachers. As a result, when multiple teachers are out, it was very common practice to put more than one class at once under one substitute teacher in the auditorium or the media center, also known as the library. This is very problematic for students because it throws them off their routine, as they not only have a different teacher, but they are in a different environment. And it becomes a very loud environment very quickly and very disorganized. And that one teacher now has to watch usually at least around 40 students. And so those 40 students don't get the individual help and attention they need. And this was actually very challenging for the autistic students that I work with. So a lot of times when there was a case, there was a sub, and the students were displaced, we would decide to keep them in the classroom because they were concerned they wouldn't be able to be comfortable in that environment and learn in that environment, which means the students lost critical inclusion time with their typically able peers. Fortunately, this year we have enough VBEs this hasn't really been a problem at our school, and we've been able to we'll have one VBE to watch each class, and they've been able to stay in the regular classroom. And I feared that if we lost the VBEs, we'd be back to multiple classes at once in the media center and the auditorium. There are many more areas potentially facing cuts that would have devastating consequences on the health, safety, and education of students that I did not have time to elaborate on tonight. In conclusion, I'm imploring you to vote no on this budget as presented and work with City Council to ensure that our schools get the funding they need to keep them fully staffed. Thank you.
I neglected to mention, whenever anybody comes to the podium, just if you could state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Jay Jalbert.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and School Committee. I'm Jay Jalbert, 6 Lady Slipper Lane. I'll keep this short. First, notice my shirt. It's about 7 years old. We've been here before. At the last meeting, Mr. Mayor told the members that you would have to consider other departments when submitting your budget. I'm asking you now which other departments faced that same question, that same ask. I don't purport to speak for anybody other than myself, though I do believe my sentiments are echoed both in this room and beyond. I simply ask that you vote a resounding no on a budget that shortchanges our schools yet again. Thank you.
Melissa Curran.
So Melissa Curran, 16 Milk Street. Good evening, members of the school committee, mayor, superintendent. My name is Melissa Curran, and I'm here to speak to you today as a special education teacher. So I come with data and a fact-oriented statement. And I will try to remain there because otherwise things get emotional. And this is a budget which thrives on fact. Emotions make things personal, and budgets are not personal. They're reality. I teach preschool at Branch Street. This is my 5th year as a teacher, my 10th year in the preschool program. Something I have noticed more and more in the city is that this preschool program is not completely understood. We do more than just provide, free daycare and play with the little ones. So I just wanted to give you some perspective into our world. Preschool at Branch Street is provided because of state mandates. We service children ages 3 to 5, most times once they age out of early intervention and right up until they're eligible for kindergarten in Methuen Public Schools. These students are primarily children with IEPs, so this means that they have been identified with a disability ranging from developmental, autism, physical, communication, or something other that maybe hasn't even been noted yet. Most students here on IEPs receive much more than just educational services. They get speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy, vision services, and so many more that I'm probably not even aware of. We also have a growing number of students that are actually utilizing communication devices because they are nonverbal and we are helping them find their voice. In addition to services, these students thrive and need structure, routine, and consistency. This allows them to be successful in their own little way, and they can build expectations when they know what is expected of them. They form connections to staff, and this helps with their ultimate success. Here at Branch Street, we have 3 types of preschool programs. We have an integrated program, a partial inclusion, and a substantially separate. The integrated program runs 2 half-day sessions, 5 days a week. These classrooms are made up of 1 teacher and 1 program assistant. The students in this program require less support from the adults, hence the 1 teacher and 1 program assistant. These classes will house typically up to 7 students on IEPs and up to 8 peer models. This year, we had 3 of these classrooms, and due to enrollment numbers and the needs of the students, one of these classes has already been deemed closed for the next school year because the level isn't there for the students. Partial inclusion. I'm a little biased because this is my realm. We run 4.5 days a week. It is full day, 4 days, Wednesdays where they're half day with the kids. We are 1 teacher with 2 program assistants. We are a mid-range level of support. We run up to 8 students on IEPs. This year, all of us went to 9 students on IEPs, and we can have up to 6 peer models. The level in this classroom, the level of need in this classroom does run a little bit higher than the integrateds, but not as severe as the substantially separates. We have 7 partial inclusion classrooms this year. 1 was actually opened mid-year because of the number of students requiring services. 5 of these 7 classrooms right now also utilize support from a BCBA due to the level of need and IEP requirements. Substantially separate classrooms. Again, a 4.5-day week program with 1 teacher and 3 program assistants. This program, as it sounds, provides the highest level support to our kids. There are typically 8 students on IEPs in these classrooms. Again, this year, they went to 9 students. We have 8 classrooms. Again, all between 8 and 9 students on IEPs. And again, 1 was opened mid-year because of the increased enrollment. Again, many of these classrooms also receive support from a BCBA. And in addition to all that, many, if not most of the students in these classrooms require toileting, etc., average daily tasks. They need the additional support of their staff members. So now, giving a glimpse into our world and what our programs look like, I just want to discuss the budgeting impacts that came to light last week, at least for me. So already mentioned, we've already been notified that one integrated class will close, and that's because of numbers, and that makes perfect sense. However, I did notice that in the proposed budget that I noticed last week, that 3 partial inclusion PAs will be slated to be cut, for lack of better words, leaving 1 program assistant in every partial inclusion classroom and providing what could be a floater as necessary. Yes, there are not actual people in these roles currently, because to my understanding, they are contractual employees, but it's still a position that is needed. I cannot stress how much this is going to put students and staff in possibly unsafe situations, unfair situations. The way partial inclusion classrooms run, at times, if a speech therapist takes a few students out of the room for services, that leaves the remaining students. If a teacher is in a meeting or gets called to do something else, that leaves a remaining PA with the remaining class. And if there is only 1 PA available, we're kind of struggling to find a place to put the kids. There are also times in which there are behavioral episodes that require support. And if we don't have the adequate staff within the room, it just prolongs what is happening. Not to mention, who decides and how would it be decided who gets a floater that day? Because right now, we have days that, sorry, I skipped a sentence. This is why I usually wing it, but I knew I would go off. So I am also curious how it would be decided and guaranteed that these floaters would be in fact in the partial inclusion classroom, when even to this day, with the amount of absences that we have on any given day at Branch Street, PAs are pulled from any classroom. If we are down students and we can spare some staff, or, you know, some of us are jumping between classrooms just to kind of help out, maintain numbers, maintain safety, help run kids to the bathroom or bring lunches downstairs, how can we guarantee that these partial PA floaters will not just be used to cover other classrooms as necessary? And that's not a dig at anybody, it's just reality. It's what we've lived for many years. And again, based on my description of the classrooms, it's not an accident. With the different levels of programming come the different levels of staffing. Our highest need has the most staff. We dwindle down a little bit with a little less need, we cut back to the staff, and then we go to integrated with the less amount of need, and they had the least amount of staff. That is not by accident, that is very intentional. Additionally, I would like to draw attention to the fact, and it was noted today, I believe Dr. Kwong mentioned it in the packet, that we've never run the same as any other grade level or program in the district. We have a preschool special education administrator. We don't have a principal. She does both. So everything that every other school says their principal is required to do, and then their special education administrator is required to do, ours does both. Personally, so this year we had a stipend position for an SEA support person. That was me. It's been a great position, I will be very honest, and I have learned a great deal. But to put it in perspective, I have put in and logged over 400 hours since September assisting the SEA in preschool. That's 400 hours that I took off her plate that is going to go right back on, because she does all of it. The principaling, if that's even a word, her administrative duties. She also is consistently helping parents help the staff in the building, because we don't have a PTO. So we have parents just trying to help and recognize and support the staff, and our SEA is doing that as well. So to think that we are the only building that has this one person wearing all of those hats, those administrative hats. I know Mr. Goslin demonstrated and told us how many hats he wears, and I see this being in Branch Street. There are a lot of hats being worn. The ETF position was originally proposed across the board in the district. I was disappointed to see that it was removed from Branch Street. As a point of interest, as of right now, almost every day in September, we have an initial eligibility meeting for possible incoming preschoolers. That is a meeting that our SEA will have to attend. Every day, there's at least one scheduled so far. So again, we have amazing teachers. We have amazing PAs. We have wonderful administrators. This is not an easy job. The budget is not personal. I worry having so much work added to teachers is going to burn them out faster than ever. I don't want to see them leave. I also want to make note that I thank Ms. Bozak and I thank Dr. Kwong, because on those lists, you see the Director of Special Education, that spot had not been filled after a retirement mid-year. Ms. Bozak never pushed to fill it. It's not even on the budget. She's willing to take on that added responsibility, and I respect that greatly, and I thank you. Dr. Kwong was willing to add her executive assistant to the cut list and take that and run with it to try to keep money in the classrooms and with the staff. And again, I thank you and I respect you greatly for that. It's these situations that we really need to look at. People are willing to make the tough choices, and I thank you for that. I think we need to be creative and really take a look at things, and I know we don't have the time and we don't have the options. But again, I thank Dr. Kwong, Ms. McCarthy, Ms. Bozak, Mr. Goslin, everybody else on the team that has just been going above and beyond day after day. I'm at Branch Street. I see it. Doors are closed, meetings are happening, people are running around, and I don't want you guys to think that it's not noticed. So I will end it there. I have gone on long enough. I thank you very much for your time.
Carrie Dudley.
I think it's green, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the chance to speak tonight. My name is Carrie Dudley, and I've been a physical education teacher at the upper school level at the Marsh Grammar School for 25 years. I'm here because I'm deeply concerned about the safety and the future of our physical education program. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Some of my core concerns is about student safety. When one teacher is expected to manage a large PE class, especially with students who have special needs, it puts everyone at risk. We need proper staffing to ensure student safety. Injury response. Over the years, I've managed countless student injuries. Responding quickly and appropriately, especially in emergencies, requires more than one adult present in the gym. Emergency procedures. Our lockdown protocols rely on splitting students by gender into locker rooms. Without two teachers, the system breaks down and compromises safety. Equity and supervision. As a female teacher, I am unable to monitor the boys' locker room. Without a male counterpart, there's a clear gap in safety and equity. Program quality and student engagement. Our PE program thrives on offering students choice. One teacher means one activity, and that leads to disengagement. We've built a strong program at the middle school level. Students experience consistency, variety, and meaningful engagement. Community and culture. Our annual American Heart Association fundraiser is a highlight for our school and a source of pride. The kids talk about it all year. It's fun. It cannot run safely or successfully without the support of both teachers. Liability. Reducing staff might save money, but it increases the risk of injury and liability, especially in situations that could have been better managed with adequate supervision. Why keep the current model? The current structure, 2 teachers working together at the middle school level, it works. It allows us to offer choice, provide proper supervision, respond to emergencies, and support students of all genders fairly. It's a model that keeps students safe, engaged, and active. Changing it risks unraveling all that we've built. Staffing comparison. We have 6 physical educators at the high school and 2 physical educators for each lower school. Having just 1 PE teacher at the middle school level is neither equitable, in my opinion, or safe. In closing, this isn't just about budget. It's about knowingly putting students and staff in harm's way. When 1 teacher is left to manage a large class, including students with special needs, it's not a matter of if something goes wrong, it's when. That's not staffing, it's gambling with safety. And I worry about who's going to be held responsible. I love my job so much and the students I serve. I'm not here to resist change. I'm here to make sure that any changes truly support our students and the professionals who work with them. Please don't make decisions that compromise student safety, teacher effectiveness, or program quality. I urge you to continue supporting the teachers and students of Methuen by presenting to the City Council a budget that protects the integrity, structure, and safety of our schools. Thank you.
Megan LaFerrier?
Good evening, Mayor, Superintendent, members. My name is Megan LaFerrier, and I've been a Methuen resident for most of my life, a teacher at the Marsh Grammar School since 2007, and a parent of 2 children in Methuen Public Schools. Tonight, I speak not only as an educator, but as a mother and someone deeply invested in the future of this city. My husband and I chose Methuen as our forever home because we believe in this community. As a teacher in the district, I couldn't imagine sending my children anywhere else, but I'm growing increasingly concerned about that decision and where we're headed if we continue to underfund our schools. Sorry. My daughter is a 4th grader at the Marsh, and for months she's been excitedly talking about all the new opportunities that upper school will bring, especially the chance to learn Spanish. But now we're being told that program may no longer exist by the time she gets there, and what else will fall by the wayside throughout her time here. The transition to 5th grade is already a major leap, academically, emotionally, and socially. It comes with more responsibility, higher expectations, and a whole new environment for her. Starting that critical year in a classroom of 27 students and counting makes it incredibly difficult for teachers to support students through that transition, ease their anxieties, and give them the foundation they need to thrive as future high school students. And with everything that Ms. Dudley said, I'm actually quite concerned with her safety and health and well-being throughout that transition. My son is a kindergartner at the Marsh, and he's a struggling reader who currently works with our reading specialist. That specialist, alongside his dedicated classroom teacher, have changed the trajectory of his education in only a few short months. Just weeks ago, he asked to bring a book to school for show and tell. He read it to his class proudly and confidently. That moment would not have happened without her support. What will happen when he enters 1st grade with larger class sizes and the supports he desperately needs gone? What will happen to future kindergartners like my son, many of them entering school for the first time, when they are overwhelmed with larger class sizes and reduced support? I don't think any of us want to find out. As a teacher, I see this from every angle. Larger class sizes make it harder to build the relationships that allow us to help each student meet their potential. More than half of the students I teach daily are considered high needs or have accommodations. Others are dealing with social and emotional needs, need extra help to keep up, or quite simply just learning to navigate this world, a difficult task in itself. And they deserve more support, not less. As Member Shabilia said, these are not the classrooms of 1992, and that's absolutely right, and it's something to be celebrated. My students are vibrant, diverse, and full of potential. We talk, collaborate, and make deep connections. I learn from them every day, but establishing the norms that allow those voices to be heard, it's not easy. And as you increase class sizes and lessen our resources, it becomes almost impossible. These things cannot be accomplished without all the supports to keep a school system running. Every cut we make reverts us backward. I would like to speak to you now about another ripple effects of these cuts and layoffs. Not only are you jeopardizing the livelihoods of the dedicated educators that will be laid off, but you're also forcing the dismantling of every school in the district. The teachers whose positions are cut but have professional status will be shuffled from schools they've made their homes for 10, 15, 20 plus years, and most likely into new grade levels. While we're all certified professionals and understand that changes can happen, the truth is your vote will determine whether our school system faces immense disruption, and I just feel like I need to make this clear to you. I've taught 5th grade math for 13 years. I can confidently tell you I'm an expert in the subject. I can tell you the misconceptions that will be made, the most common mistakes I see, and exactly how to intervene. A 1st grade reading teacher of 20 plus years is the exact same with her students and has poured countless hours, time, and money into her classroom. And a 4th grade general education teacher of over a decade knows exactly the unique needs of those students on the cusp of their tween years and how to guide them through it, all while keeping them engaged and learning. I could go on and on. Moving a grade level and or school is not as easy as handing someone a piece of paper and packing up a few boxes. We have proven that we are resilient educators in Methuen, and I know that every single one of us will step up to make sure that their students succeed, but I want you to know what this means. This means teachers staying after school later than they already do to plan and copy. This means instead of getting a small moment to themselves after attending to their own families, they will stay up to pore over their new curriculum so their students will succeed. This means weekends studying new standards while juggling soccer games, dance competitions, and sacrificing time with their families. Between larger class sizes and picking up the pieces from the many unnecessary position cuts, you will burn out the amazing, talented, and dedicated educators you have left, and in the end, we all lose. What is most upsetting about all of this is it could be avoided with the proper funding that we know the city of Methuen could provide. This year, we fought hard for a contract to retain and attract teachers. Now you're pulling the rug out from under us. You're decimating our schools, draining our staff, and jeopardizing the future of every student who walks through the doors. In my 17 years here, I've watched as kindergarten paraprofessionals were erased from classrooms, Title I and reading specialists disappeared from schools, and library books were packed up and forgotten about. I've seen more cuts than I can count, but far too few investments. What's needed now is leadership. Leadership that protects our students, supports our schools, and invests in the future of Methuen. You must pass a budget that does not tear our school system apart. Thank you.
Erica Sullivan.
Good evening. My name is Erica Sullivan. I have been an upper school counselor at the CGS since 2019. I'm here to speak out against the proposed layoffs and to particularly highlight the impact the loss of 4 proposed counselor positions would have on each of the city's grammar schools. I do not live in the Methuen area. When originally applying to counseling jobs, I chose to work in Methuen because of the commitment and thoughtfulness that this district approached supporting students' mental health. During my time here, I've been able to see and feel the positive impact that my work has had on students. I'm able to have this impact because of this community's investment in hiring and supporting counselors. Several of my colleagues have spoken and shared important quantitative data about the alarming mental health trends and why maintaining school counselors is critical. Tonight, I want to support those statements by providing some more qualitative data that highlights the importance of school counselors. As a school counselor, it's not uncommon for people to ask me, what do you do each day? School counseling looks different than it did a generation ago, and it looks different across grade levels and in different districts. However, at the CGS, being a school counselor looks like this. greeting and supporting a student who's struggling with school avoidance and anxiety enter the school building each morning. Administering our twice-a-year school-wide mental health screening, meeting with all students with elevated scores, and creating individualized intervention plans as needed. Facilitating social skills groups for students struggling with social pragmatics. Students engage in creative activities where they practice skills such as initiating conversations, asking a friend to play at recess, or solving conflicts. Facilitating therapeutic counseling groups for students with anxiety and depression symptoms. Providing clinical support and case management for students in the Bright and Choices program, 2 of our in-district programs that provide increased supports for students with identified mental health or emotional needs. Supporting students and families when they are facing incredibly challenging circumstances outside of school. This can include a death of a family member, homelessness, being in the custody of the Department of Children and Families, living in a residential setting such as St. Anne's or other group homes within Methuen, and the numerous other traumatic events that too many students come to school with each day. Providing IEP-mandated counseling services, providing referrals, recommendations, and guidance to families who are trying to access community-based counseling, communicating with those mental health providers to ensure services are coordinated, providing support and referrals for families who need necessities such as clothing or food, responding to students in crisis. This includes assessing risk of suicidality and self-harm, responding to students when there are concerns of abuse and neglect, filing 51A reports with the Department of Children and Families, tracking attendance data and delivering interventions for students struggling with chronic absenteeism, working collaboratively with teachers and families to come up with evidence-based behavior plans, responding to students who are too dysregulated to remain in class, regularly attending IEP meetings, acting as a case manager for students on Section 504 plans, facilitating mediations to solve student conflict, administering and supporting the implementation of IDECIDE, a substance use intervention, teaching classroom lessons on topics such as internet safety, mental health awareness, bullying, and respecting differences. That's a long list, and it doesn't even include everything we do. As school counselors, we never turn students away or put them on a wait list. Even when our schedule's packed, we find creative ways to see students and address their needs. We're there for students' problems, big and small, and help them build skills so that they can enter the classrooms ready to learn. There are no extraneous positions in our current school staffing structure. Each position is critical and has a role to play in supporting and educating our students. Each position is interconnected, and a loss in one department has a cascading effect across a whole school building. I urge the City Council and the school committee to work together and think of creative ways to fund our schools without these proposed layoffs. Thank you for your time.
That's the end of the list of people who signed up. Before we have the written correspondence, is there anyone in the audience who didn't sign up but would like to speak? Sharon?
Do I press this on or is it on? Okay. Hi, I'm Sharon LaPlante. I am a teacher here in Methuen, but why I'm here tonight is safety. Huge concern, clearly, just from the people who spoke tonight. Just to put it all into perspective for you, because of these budget cuts, we're about to lose an amazing teacher. Jenna Gagnon, an 8th grade teacher at the Marsh, my former 4th grade student, performed the Heimlich maneuver, saving a kid's life the other day in the hallway. If she had not been in that hallway, who knows what would have happened to that child? Having one less staff member is going to jeopardize student safety. And having that one less staff member could realize it couldn't have been done like Jenna did it. We need to keep that in mind, safety. And just remember, we can't afford to risk going back. We must keep Methuen moving forward. Thank you.
Would anyone else in the audience like to speak? If not, I'll invite the vice chair to share the written correspondence.
Dear school committee members, my name is Melissa and Sarah Burns, and I am the proud parent of a Methuen High School class of 2024 graduate and a current kindergartner at the Marsh Grammar School. When my youngest son was just 1 month old, he was diagnosed with AML leukemia. Doctors told my husband and I that he likely wouldn't make it through the night, but he defied the odds. When he was 3, he faced another battle that landed him back in the hospital, and once again he pulled through. Today, he is a strong, thriving 6-year-old boy. He continues to need extra support and currently has an IEP to help him succeed in school. I'm asking this council to help him defy the odds once more, and not just him, but every child in Methuen. Our children are full of potential, strength, and resilience, but they need the resources, support, and commitment from their community to help them rise. Let's invest in their futures, because every child deserves a chance to beat the odds. Thank you, Melissa and Sarah Burns. To the Methuen School Committee, my name is John Drew. I am the father of 2 children in Methuen Public Schools, a homeowner and a voter. I am writing tonight because what is happening with this proposed school budget is nothing short of outrageous. Cutting more than 80 school positions, teachers, paraprofessionals, support staff is not just a numbers game. It's a direct hit to the heart of our community, and frankly, it's a disgrace. Let's be clear, this is not about budgets. This is about values. It is about whether or not we choose to invest in our kids, in our educators, and in the long-term strength of our city. Because if we do not fight for our schools now, we will all pay the price later in overcrowded classrooms, in struggling students, and a weakened community. Public safety is essential. No one is questioning that. But why is the school department being asked to shoulder the entire burden? No other department is seeing layoffs of this magnitude. Where is the balance? Where is the fairness? And where is the leadership? The mayor and our city leaders must act now. Not tomorrow, not next fiscal year, but now. Use the stabilization fund, use free cash, fund the schools for the next 2 years, and use that time to build a bridge to a real, responsible, long-term plan to generate new revenue and invest in our city's future. This is what those funds are for, aren't they? They're for critical moments like this when our children's education is on the line. Our educators are not excess. They are essential. They are the ones who show up every day for our children, mentoring them, guiding them, believing in them. And now they're being told they're expendable? That is unacceptable. The truth is, this budget crisis is a test of priorities. And Methuen needs to decide what kind of community it wants to be. The people of Methuen are proud, hardworking, and resilient. We believe in our city and we want to see it thrive. But that begins with education. That begins with protecting the people who serve our children every day. And it begins with leadership that has the courage to do what's right, not just what's easy or politically safe. So to the school committee, the city council, and the mayor, this is your moment. Stand up for our schools. Pass a properly funded budget. Stop these devastating cuts. Show this city what you're willing to fight for its future. Because the people of Methuen will remember who stood up for our schools and our children, and who did not. Respectfully, John R. Drew, Jr., Methuen resident and parent.
All right, that's it for written correspondence. We're now going to move on to the adoption of the fiscal year 2026 budget. We're going to begin with operating net school spending, not including chargebacks. Frankly, I'm just going to state this. I fully expect this to fail, but we need to begin with a motion and a second to adopt the city number. This is a 4% year-over-year increase to $99,456,385. This is before going for additional free cash. We need a motion and a second to at least vote on that number.
So moved.
Second that.
Motion from Member DiZoglio. The second is from Member Shabilia.
Discussion.
Discussion, just to begin, this is the number that will be going to the City Council. If, assuming the committee votes against it, it will be presented as a negative recommendation from the school committee, and then we'll move on to the higher number just for the purpose of this exercise. But nevertheless, this is what we have for the city number. Member Shabilia?
Dr. Kwong, first, a formal request. for more data that we've now scrubbed a whole bunch away. If we could get at our monthly regular meeting a report as to how many classrooms we have in the auditoriums every month, I assume you guys track that somewhere, somehow? Yes, okay. Just especially as if we lose BBEs, to see how that number is going to increase. And I think parents would be interested to know when they drop their kids off at school, whether they're in their class learning or if they're in the auditorium doing other things. I don't know what happens in there.
You're asking, I mean, we only have one more business meeting. You're asking for
Yeah,
that to
going
start
forward.
in the next school year? Okay.
Beyond that, in your opinion, the budget, either budget as presented, be it the mayor's number or the compromised budget, with the reduced services, do you anticipate a reasonable risk of increased out-of-district placements as a result of the decreased services in our buildings?
I don't know if I could answer that.
I'm not going to hold you
I could
to it.
answer
This is not a.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I can answer that, because I think there's either budget, the second budget would be more challenging with more students in a classroom. I think there might be an increase in testing and evaluations because of that. And we've seen that. I've seen that in my career, that when teachers don't have the ability to actually have small groups or individual time with kids, sometimes those gaps look bigger or may become bigger. And so there may be more evaluations, not always ending up in eligibility, but that in and of itself obviously will put a burden on staff, because the more evaluation staff has to do, the less time they have student facing. So I don't know if I could say that it could lead to that. I guess it could lead to that. I certainly don't want to say it's a cause and effect, but there will be repercussions for that. I think there will be a burden also put on our English learner staff, because again, the more students that are in a classroom and the less individual time that a teacher can actually spend with the students, or not have multiple eyes on a student. So if that student isn't going to a specialist or an L teacher, again, those gaps could grow. I think that's a fair statement. You know, the outcome of that, where it goes, hard to actually say cause and effect, but it's a fair statement to say the larger classes would certainly end up in just less specificity for our teachers to be able to determine what the child needs. Is that, Ms. Bozak, would you say that's
Helpful,
fair?
yes.
That's a fair statement, as well as reducing services or programming around social emotional, because I will say, as a district, that is not the population of students that we may see going to out-of-district placements at a high rate because of the programs and services that we have within the district.
So reducing the SEL program, that may have that is
Yes.
more likely to have an impact on an
Correct.
increase of our out-of-district.
Correct.
And that'll send our, best case scenario, send our per pupil rate from about 18,000 now to, at minimum, 50, 60, depending on the program? Like, what do we pay for Crest per
Oh,
student?
you mean for out-of-district tuition?
Yeah.
It depends on the
Yeah, it
child.
depends on the level of the program, but for that type of program for SEL, you're looking at just under 50,000
So we're
at Crest.
Right.
If I have to look at a non-member
Elsewhere, then it's
district,
It's more. higher.
Collaborative, then it's higher.
Okay, so we're gambling. Okay. My next question, and I want to thank the PE teacher, whose name I don't remember, who spoke a little while ago, because it never even dawned on me. Thanks, Carrie. We have the two PE positions in the compromised budget that would be eliminated, and it never dawned on me about the lockdowns in the gyms, and the fact that every one of our gyms has a male and female teacher, correct?
At the upper level right now, I believe so.
And that's where the locker rooms are,
Correct.
because the lower school kids are not using a locker room.
Correct.
I grew up in a different community. We had locker rooms in middle school. These guys grew up here. To lose a teacher and to have a group of 7th, 8th graders in a locker room unsupervised, that's some Channel 7 kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think we're making assumptions, though, I think, a little bit with that, because I wouldn't expect that. If I had a classroom of kids that a staff was supervising, I would expect a space to be designated and the teacher to supervise students in that space. Boy, girl, locker room, doesn't matter. They're not in there unsupervised. So just like a classroom teacher is tucking themselves into a corner with 20 kids, boys and girls, and keeping them safe and proceeding with lockdown procedures, I would expect the same in a cafeteria, in a gym, in an auditorium, in the library. They need to know what space that is that they're going to keep the kids safe.
Are the upper school kids, and I don't know because I don't have kids there.
Again, the system would have to, like right now, that's how it's, we'd have to redefine the system.
But are the kids changing for gym?
In the upper school, they are.
So still,
Depends.
you're going to have a group of students in a locker room unsupervised. So using Carrie as the example.
Oh, you mean outside of a safety?
Outside of the safety lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So using Carrie as the example, her counterpart, assuming that person is male, is no longer here. That locker room has kids going in and out of it and getting changed unsupervised all day long.
Potentially, depending on the school. Yeah, I mean, systems are going to have to change. I'm not, right, I think the idea behind some of these things, we have to know that we're going to have it, and then we have to look at the system and the schedule and change, right? Because there was an assumption made that everything would stay the same and we would put one PE teacher in front of 2 classrooms. That's not the system we're looking at. We're looking at 3 teachers, right, dividing into K through 8 PE classes, right? So the whole system is going to have to change. Can we cover that system? We believe we can, but it has to change. We have to reschedule the
But no
kids.
amount of rescheduling is going to make
No,
Carrie
you're
have
absolutely
a
right.
dual-gendered locker room.
You're absolutely right. But that has to be decided at some point, and I don't have supervision in every male bathroom. We're just going to have to figure out what that looks like if and when push comes to shove. I'm not saying it's awesome. Please don't misunderstand me.
Trust me, I know, and I don't
Nothing about any of this is
envy
awesome.
anyone's
but
position
we
here.
would have to redefine.
But we don't have children getting
systems.
changed in bathrooms. And, I'll defer to Member DeZoglio. He was most recently there. I can only look back on my days in high school and know the inappropriate stupidness that young boys do in a locker room. We were dumb.
Yeah, and I was a football player too. Yeah, and so yeah, like just I'm gonna take away. Yeah, I think that's just just and you hear that term, boys will be boys, but in this day and age, you can't let that happen. So to refer back to Member Shabelia, yeah, I just see this is spiraling out of control when we go through the layers. And I want parents to hear this at home, where we're now having to change our own gym system. Me and DJ went, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but we went to school together and we never had to worry about that. I don't remember one time we didn't have Mr. James at the Timony, or then when he went to the high school, Coach Mo. We had all these people supervising us. And now we're saying that we might not even have a male gym teacher to supervise the boys. How can we go from where we were when we had 4 male teachers at the high school, if we recall, to now that possibly filling maybe 1? I just feel like that's just something unheard of in our time.
Vice Chair?
So when my kids were in middle school, and it wasn't all that long ago, there were 2 male gym teachers and my kids were females.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was nobody going in the locker rooms at all. And I was told when I asked, because my kids do have special needs, I was told that gym teachers don't go in the locker rooms while the kids are changing because it's an issue. And so I don't think that this is actually an issue that needs to be made. I'm not saying that we should not be concerned about how the gym classes are going to be and the supervision, et cetera, but I think we're making an issue out of something that doesn't exist right now. And so I don't think having, we don't mandate male and female gym teachers. We hire people based on their credentials, and so we don't necessarily have a male and a female gym teacher in every school, in every grade level. And it just wasn't the way. And so, my kids didn't go in the locker room because of my own concerns, because there was no supervision. But, we're talking, it's been years, right? And so, my kids don't go in the high school locker room because I have concerns, because there's no supervision. So I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill here because the issue already exists and we're not making it worse right now.
Do we have any other discussion regarding the proposed 4% increase to $99,456,385? If we don't, we'll take a roll call vote.
Member DiZoglio?
No.
Member Donovan?
No.
Member Keegan?
No.
Member Maxwell?
No.
Member Shabilia?
Nope.
Member Willett?
No.
Mayor Beauregard?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 no, passes.
It'll be
I-
presented with
What
a
fails,
negative.
sorry?
it'll-
6 no, I'm sorry, 6 no, 1 yes, I
It
apologize.
fails, and it'll be presented to the council with a negative recommendation. For the sake of this exercise tonight, we do need to adopt a school committee version of the budget. So I'll entertain a motion in a second to adopt the $102,639,745 number.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Member DiZoglio, second from the Vice Chair, to adopt a school committee recommended number. Discussion? Member Donovan?
Hi. I just feel it's important that I just share very briefly why I think this, we're calling it the compromise budget. And I think that's probably an apt term for it. I'm supporting it not because it's ideal, but I think it's the most responsible as we can be under the most difficult current conditions. This budget allows for some of the key positions that we have been talking about, I think since January, when Dr. Kwong started the conversation, and concerns were raised. Our reading specialists. We started a reading literacy initiative a few years ago and saw some great progress. And to think that we would lose the people who have really been the heart and soul of this is painful. The medical assistants, which were initially like in and out of the budget, but we know that there are hundreds of kids who go to the nurse's office every day at all our schools. And not to have them there supporting the nurses during critical times, caring for kids with chronic illnesses, some of our fragile students, is just something that I cannot live with. There's still too many cuts, and I'm really concerned about the impact of student safety. Many of our speakers spoke about that today, but before we can educate, we have to keep our kids safe. And I'm not sure even if this budget will accomplish that. As we've talked about, Mayor, and I know you're in a tough situation, and I need to acknowledge that. And I don't think it's anyone's fault. I do think this process, for 30 years, the budget process has been chaotic and disruptive to the work of our central staff. We would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the work being done by our leadership team here. I've never seen anything like it. It's been like a moving target, and I don't know if there's been any rest, and I so respect the work they have done, as I know you do. And I also think we need, as a team, to thank our colleagues on the City Council and you for providing us with that transfer of funds Monday night. That was pretty significant, and I think we were all holding our breath. I hope we can have that continued support and somehow find a solution here. But I have to say, I know residents are wondering, as am I, like, it's so hard to bring it all together, knowing that we have free cash, and I do acknowledge there are rules around that, and we talked about it, and I think the free cash fund is starting to shrink a little. But I read today about our bond rating and how that has improved. So it's really hard to reconcile the good economic news while we're cutting core services and some dedicated, wonderful teachers. And I did. I went down memory lane and started to research when we had layoffs of public service employees. We all value them. I could not find in my research the last time we laid off any fire or police. I know, and I could be wrong. I know during COVID there was a little reshuffling of how they were paid, but I couldn't find any significant layoffs in the last 10 years. And if someone wants to correct me, please do. And I reflect on the last 10 years in Methuen Public Schools. We've had moments where the light did come, when we had some extra money, and we were able to start a literacy initiative, and we hired humanities supervisors to help us teach our kids to read even better. We lost our deans of students, and there just is such a disparity. I'm not quite sure where this is going to go, but there's no way. I'm unhappy that I'm supporting this budget, but I think it is the best possible scenario right now. So I just felt the need to say that. So, thank you.
Any other discussion regarding the other proposal?
Oh, thank you.
If not, we'll take a roll call vote on the motion to adopt $102,639,745.
Mayor, I apologize, I missed the motion and the second.
It was from
One taken?
Member DiZoglio, and the second was from the Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. Member DiZoglio?
No.
Member Donovan?
Yes.
Member Keegan?
Yes.
Member Maxwell?
No.
Member Shabilia? Member Willett?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
No.
4 yes,
The
3
school
no.
committee has adopted $102,639,745. Next, we're going to move on to total non-net school spending. I'm going to propose a motion and a second to adopt the number $11,081,304. This would include the next free cash transfer to bridge the non-net gap. Do we have a motion and a second?
Excuse me, Mayor?
Yes.
Can we just double-check that amount, please?
Mayor, we've since cut another $20,000 from that, so we should read $11,061,304.
Okay. I just want to state that we have in this publication on page 9, it's $11,081,304. We confirm? Are we sure?
I'm positive that
Okay.
changed at 520.
Okay, so it'll be $11,061,304.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is from Member Shabilia. The second is from Member DiZoglio. Any discussion? We'll take a roll call vote on the motion to Member Maxwell. Any other discussion? If not, we'll vote on the number for the total net school spending. That's $11,061,304.
Member DiZoglio?
Yes.
Member Donovan?
Yes.
Member Keegan?
Yes.
Member Maxwell?
No.
Member Shabilia?
Yes.
Member Willett?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
Yes. That's adopted. We now need a motion and a second to adopt the total operating fiscal year '26 budget. This would be the school committee's proposed numbers $113,701,049.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's from Member DiZoglio, second is from the Vice Chair. Discussion? Member DiZoglio?
I just want to finish, and I've thought, like I said last year when we were in the same spot, I said, if we vote yes, we're just kicking the can down the road, and we'll be right back here with either bigger problems, and we just keep doing that. And I looked at Mayor Perry and I said, all respect, and I'm going to say that to you. I know you have a tough job, as I said to Mayor Perry, and he looked at me and he said, I agree. And I said, but I can't support it. I can't support, as you could look at me, I'm tired tonight because I deal with 28 kids per class. And then every teacher that's left here tonight knows at the end of May, the kids' hype goes from 5 to about 15. And I can't sit here knowing what that does to me and vote yes on a budget that possibly will do that to you guys. That's unfair. I know what it does, and I cannot put that stress on you. I've lived here for 25 years. I've gone through the Methuen Public Schools. And as I said last year, I cannot vote on a budget that is going to set us back, especially when Dr. Kwong and I went through COVID together and we managed that storm and we did everything right. Because we said, now, and Dr. Kwong could correct me on this, when we got to a point where we needed the city's help, we can always say, during COVID, we did everything right. We didn't use the ESSA funds to support salaries. We didn't do those things that other communities did. We did everything right. So when we got to a moment like this, we can look out to our mayor or our city council and said, we have done everything right. We've moved the district forward when we didn't have that much. And now you want us to set us back. I can't vote on a budget that does that. That's not my job. My job is to make sure that the Methuen Public Schools, and I've said that for 5 years as I sat in this chair, I will never vote on a budget that sets Methuen Public Schools back and hurts our students' education. So I cannot vote on this budget. Thank you.
Member Shabilia?
Question. I don't know if it's for you, Mr. Mayor, or Dr. Kwong, or anybody else. If the budget does not pass at this vote, what happens next? Because I'll tell you right now, I already regret voting yes, because you have to send our kids to school in August. And in my mind, I rationally know that as a community, we're broke because we are horrible at economic development. We always have been. But I can't, I don't think I can vote yes on a budget knowing I'm setting ourselves up for failure. So I guess I need to know what happens. I need to understand the consequence.
So, Member Shabilia, I have to present a budget to the City Council that is balanced. So we have that number, and we have a plan that was worked on over the course of the day, factoring in additional use of free cash, drawing that down, which is not a best practice. I'm going to be violating a fiscal best practice to do that in order to fund our schools. So we have a number that will be sent to the council. This is an exercise to produce a school committee recommendation, but nevertheless, I have to present a budget that is balanced to the council. So that is really the long and short of it. So that's where we are.
Dr. Kwong, your perspective from your side of the table?
The school committee's job is to control the budget. You have the authority to vote on a budget. If you come out of this without a budget vote, I'd have to consult with Attorney Maccaro. I mean, the school committee has to decide a budget. So you have to go through this exercise to do this. The mayor's already said, regardless of what you decide, the number is his number.
Yes. And I
right?
I
But this is an
understand
exercise
that
as an
particular
elected body that I believe you have to do. So if you vote no and we come out of this with no school committee voted budget, I would say that I would be calling Attorney Maccaro tomorrow and say, is there a further implication, or do I, as the superintendent, have no direction from the school committee as a body, and am I just going forward with the money, the chairs, what city council's going to do.
Either way on this motion, we'll simply have to take a vote.
Mr. Chairman.
Member Willett?
I just want to emphasize, like, this is a miserable vote. Again, this is a compromise package that is just going to be decimating our school system. The administration is going to have deeper cuts. Everybody who spoke tonight had a validated story. I've said that from the beginning. We have limited resources, and the bulk of our money is coming from the state. And over the last 2 years, and it was mass budget, it was at least $12 million, if not more, was reduced because of inflation. Name me a school district that's not going to suffer. Like Lowell Public Schools, they just had a recent announcement from the city manager. They're reducing again $4 million from the budget they thought was just finalized. North Andover, right, they went to the voters, they're still doing layoffs because it's going into a special education account. So I thought this was a reasonable compromise package that no one is happy with, and I reflected that in my prior remarks. I wish I could go pie in the sky and do what Member DiZoglio indicated. We would absolutely, totally drain the reserves, and you would, I wouldn't even imagine a tax bill for the following year. I can't do that. I have an obligation to the taxpayers. I also have an obligation as a duly elected member of the school committee. I'm prepared to take a vote. I'm going to vote in the affirmative on a compromise package, but there's no illusion, please, that I'm happy about this budget. I want that reflected for the record. I said it last year was bare bones. This is worse, okay? So all the platitudes, absolutely, I'm there with you, but the financial responsibility is still the school committee. And I understand what the mayor is saying. And again, even though I disagree with him, he's been fighting to tap into the cash reserves, and he's tried to clean up these schools, and he's done everything possible, and I will continue to work with him. So I don't, begrudgingly, I had to vote against the other one. I was this close, okay? This is a compromise, and I want to go finalize this tonight. If not, I don't know what the other alternative is. I'm not going beyond the number that is the compromise. Thank you.
Ian?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. You've already voted on the operating budget, the operating net and the operating non-net. This number you're voting on now is simply adding those together. Both of the first two passed. I don't know why adding them together would make them fail. Well,
I'm telling you, this literally, this entire night is killing me. And we're all, I feel like we're all in the same exact boat. But we'll have to take a vote on this number. Roll call.
Member DiZoglio.
No.
Member Donovan.
Yes.
Member Keegan.
Yes.
Member Maxwell.
No.
Member Shabilia.
Yes.
Member Willett.
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard.
Based on my initial vote, I'm voting no on this. I can't put forward a budget that's not in balance.
4-3. 4 yeses, 3 no.
All right, so it's been adopted. We now need a motion and a second to adopt the number estimated chargebacks, $23,471,071.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Member DiZoglio, second from the Vice Chair. Discussion? Vice Chair?
I understand that health insurance costs have gone up, and so I understand that we need to increase the chargebacks, but why could we not level fund the rest of them? And why are we paying for the increase in, like, extra positions, et cetera? Why can't the city level fund that for us and give us that extra money?
So ultimately, for instance, this was brought up to me offline by Member Shabilia with similar questions. Had some questions about, for example, the finance office on the city side. There's a portion of that that's involved here. That's because per statute, Chapter 278, that is a function that serves both city and schools, so that's a reason for that. Otherwise, the main bulk of this increase is the increase in health insurance, and that is significant. But nevertheless, this is how it's set up per various arrangements. And for instance, in that example, that's relative to statute. Any other discussion? We'll take a vote on the $23,471,071 in chargebacks.
Member DiZoglio?
Yes.
Member Donovan?
Yes.
Member Keegan?
No.
Member Maxwell?
No.
Member Shabilia?
Yes.
Member Willett?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
Yes. That's
5
it.
yes, 2 no.
That's adopted. We now need a motion and a second to adopt the total school fiscal year 26 budget, $137,172,120. This is operating budget, net and non-net, plus chargebacks, simply a reflection of the math up to this point. Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Member DiZoglio, the second's from the Vice Chair. Discussion? Roll call?
Member DiZoglio?
No.
Member Donovan?
Yes.
Member Keegan?
Yes.
Member Maxwell?
No.
Member Shabilia?
The most disappointing yes of my life.
Member Willett?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
No, it's adopted at that number. We need a motion and a second to close the budget adoption and go into the workshop session portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from the Vice Chair, second from Member DiZoglio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We now need a motion and a second to approve the school choice program for the 2025-2026 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from the Vice Chair, second from Member DiZoglio. The vote in the affirmative is not recommended by any means, but.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody, if you're voting yes, it's for to not participate in school choice, which I would not recommend at this point. I know this one's
Yes.
hard. If you vote yes, my recommendation
Yes
is
means
that
no.
we are not
Yes means no.
participating in school choice,
Okay.
not have seats to participate.
Yes.
So the yes vote agrees with the not to participate.
Yeah.
Member DiZoglio?
Yes.
Member Donovan?
Yes.
Member Keegan?
No.
Member Maxwell?
Yes to not have them?
Correct.
Okay, yes.
Member Shabilia?
Yes.
Member Willett?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
Yes. So
The
just to
chair's
clarify for the record, this is ultimately a decision to not participate in school choice program for the upcoming school year.
Correct, thank you.
At this point on the agenda, is there any other business from the committee? Vice Chair?
So after the budget that you're putting forth goes to the city council, which is the 99 number, that's what's being presented to the city council for the school budget. If that were to pass, we then need another meeting to approve the cuts that are on that paper.
I believe we'd have to come back and do each section by section once
Okay.
we settled the whole thing.
Okay, and the second question, I just want to make sure that this is clear, is that because the city council is after June 15th, you need to send out layoff notices to everyone on the mayor's list, not the one that we just approved.
Correct.
So that means that there's going to be 50-plus layoffs notices sent to staff. And that's just our reality right now, because that's it's gonna take to get to the mayor's number.
We will confirm one more time with Attorney Maccaro, but that is what his recommendation was this evening.
Okay, so I just don't want it to be surprised when it hits the paper that we had 50-plus layoffs, because that's what that's the mayor's number, and that's the one that's going to the city council, even
And we will not know, right, we will not know it until after June 15th.
We did not vote that number.
Yes, and that is a regulation. That is not a desire for us to do that by June 15th. That is a Massachusetts regulation that we have to submit. So we wouldn't take that chance.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that's very clear to everyone, so that it's not a surprise to anyone
Yep.
when those layoff slips go out.
Member Shabilia?
Hey, Colleen, and for you, those layoff slips go out on June 15th. We're laying off hopefully more people than we have to. What is the fiscal impact of that? Because now we have to pay unemployment insurance to all of those people that
next
we
day.
laid off, starting the next day. And I guess you can share the spotlight with Ian. Are we prepared to make those payments? I know that we're not exactly swimming in extra funds here.
So I asked the city council to transfer funds out of free cash on Monday
That was
night
to cover that?
to help to cover any expenses that we have.
So legally, they can start collecting the day school gets out. So school gets out on the 16th, they can start collecting on the 17th. And the way unemployment works is that if you recalled a person to Methuen Public Schools, then the collection would stop. If they went and found a job someplace else, they collect all summer until they start their new job.
Interesting. Thank you.
Member
So-
Maxwell?
So I'm just confused with that question because in the budget that we got with the yellow papers, we took 425,000 off of the budget for this year in unemployment, and now we're going to have more unemployment than that 425,000? Oh, sorry, I misunderstood that.
May I?
Member Donovan?
Would we petition the council? Is there any way we could avoid this? Is there any way we could ask them to change their dates? Because what a terrible dilemma we're in.
So the city council did not request my feedback or have a discussion with me about changing the dates. They just went ahead and did that.
Okay.
And that is unfortunately their call to make as a legislative
That is the call
body.
of the chair?
Correct.
Member Donovan, I had a conversation with Chair Mazen, advised him the impact that was going to have on the events that are required to happen on the school side. I got the canned, I don't have my budget, I'll vote on what's in the best interest of the community, which to me was a non-responsive response given our particular issue we have. My hope, and it's something that I will have the conversation with the mayor about, if we can get together, him as chair, one or two of us with Chair Marzan, and have a conversation, see if we can get them to come to a schedule that is reasonable and is not going to cause an utter ruckus in the community.
And recognizing that they have their own responsibilities
Agreed.
to our community. Okay.
And just also for the record, we had those dates, the original dates, published
Right.
2 months ago.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or any other business from the committee? All right. We need a motion and a second to adjourn the workshop session of this meeting of May 21st, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's from Member Shabilia. The second is from Member DiZoglio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The time is 8:57 and our meeting is adjourned.
Night, Methuen.